Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are live. It is Tuesday, January 13th. And once again, folks, we have CPI. We have CPI, the Consumer Price Index. You know, I remember covering Consumer Price Index back in 2022. I had no idea what a Consumer Price Index even was. Almost 4 years later, we are still covering Consumer Price Index. I remember those days we were hoping the number would be 5.2, 5.7, down from like 6.8. Now we're looking for 2.7. We're looking for 2.7. And if we get 2.7 today, I think that would be good. If we get below 2.7, that would obviously be very good. Inflation needs to come down. That would be good to get interest rates to come down. Interest rates coming down are going to be really good for asset prices, as has been the story over the past couple of years. These are the expectations for CPI. We are starting early today because we get CPI in 10 minutes, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. That's why we are live at 8:20. And as you can see right here, every bank pretty much is expecting 2.7. Now, I think the consensus analysts are also at 2.7. Let me confirm right here. 2.6. No, 2.7. 2.7. 2.6 was last month on the year over year. 0.3 was the month over month. So we're looking for lower than 2.7 or at 2.7. Every bank got it wrong last time. I think they got it at like 2.8, 2.9, and we came in at 2.6, which was a really good beat back in December. So, you know, now we need to see if that can continue going into January. And if that does, that would be a good thing. So in about 8 minutes, we will get that CPI report. We're going to see what stuff is included in the report, given last time, I think they excluded a bunch of different things that we kind of needed. A lot of people just didn't believe in the CPI. If you remember, there was a controversy around the methodology for how they calculated inflation. So maybe that it's going to be another question that people think about. Put in the chat what you think it's going to be, whether it's 2.9, 3, 2.7, 2.6. I'm going to be basic and say 2.7. I mean, I want to say it's going to be lower than that, but then again, it was December, a lot of shopping, a lot of money being spent. It might end up being a little bit higher. And so we're going to see how this ends up playing out. We also got US ADP employment change. The actual was 11.7 versus 11.5 previous. Okay, so we added a couple hundred more jobs than expected, which is good, but nothing massively in regards to the employment change. We also had non-farm payrolls last week. Obviously, those non-farm payrolls were a little bit better than expected on the unemployment rate coming down, even if the actual number of jobs was down. So this CPI is going to be really important. Now, the other reason this is important, a lot of people here are saying 2.6, 2.7. Why are people saying 60? No, it's not 67. Oh, I get it, 6'7". You guys are children. You guys are actually children, bro. Like I know I'm a child, even though I act like I'm way older than I am, but you guys are legit children. What was I going to say? See, now I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. Look, the stock market needs a low CPI. Why? Because we are having a high beta rally right now. See Bitcoin making a little bit of a move today. I actually have a Substack article coming out tonight where I go down and explain what's been happening in regards to the first 12 days of January. And as I was writing that article last night, a lot of things came up in terms of understanding why we were having this high beta momentum. One of the things that keeps high beta rolling is low rates. And to get low rates, we need low inflation. So S&P 500 down slightly in the pre-markets. By the way, we lost or we gained an all-time high on the S&P 500 yesterday. We closed at an all-time high at 695.16. So we are pretty damn close to 7,000. We had a bunch of headlines that happened yesterday that we'll talk about. We had a lot of headlines that happened literally last night that I woke up to this morning that we'll talk about. But we are very close to 7,000. In order for us to get to that 7,000 level, I do think we need a good CPI. And I don't think we're going to get a bad CPI. Like, it would be very confusing to me to get 2.8 or 2.9 in a world in which the trend has been relatively strong for the past couple months. So if we get an ugly CPI, I think we could have an ugly market reaction. Then again, maybe the market kind of doesn't care. And the earnings growth is going to be good enough to sustain ourselves. But I think CPI will be good. Speaking of earnings growth, JP Morgan had earnings today. They beat on the top and the bottom. Delta had earnings today. They also beat. And Bank of New York Mellon had earnings today. They also beat. So we'll go and discuss those three earnings. But they all beat. Not all their stocks are up in the pre-market, but to start off earnings for Q4 2025, it's good earnings. It's not bad. JP Morgan had a record trading quarter. Delta showing record flight fees in regards to their airline business. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to be excited about, even if those stocks are not necessarily reacting to it. So if we get a good CPI in combination with these airline earnings and bank earnings, maybe these numbers can continue higher. Yes, Delta did tank. I don't actually know why Delta tanked. I think it's something their CEO said around guidance, but overall, the actual top and bottom line numbers were not too bad. JP Morgan didn't miss EPS. So some people are reporting that they missed. They had $5.23 a share versus $5. The problem is there was a $2 billion loss they had to take in regards to, what was it? In regards to one of the parts of the credit card business. And that's why the Apple Card, the loan portfolio. So that took a 60-cent per share hit. So some people are reporting that they missed earnings, which they didn't actually miss. I guess on a real GAAP basis they did, but on adjusted earnings, they're fine. So that's why the stock is relatively flat. Given that's a one-time charge, that's not that big of a deal. So I think the street's going to ignore it. JP Morgan right there up about 0.3% in the pre-markets. And we'll go deeper into the earnings when they come out. For all those asking why we're early, it's because we got CPI. How did everyone forget we have CPI? Everyone's asking why I'm early. It's CPI day. We haven't missed a CPI in 2.5 years. Literally, I don't think we've missed a CPI. The only time we missed, even when we're traveling, we don't miss a CPI. I remember being in California. This is what, September, covering CPI. We got to be here for you. Know what? I slept last night at 9:30. It was like I speaking about getting older, I want to sleep every day at 9:30. If I could sleep every day at 9:30, I feel my life would be better. Ew, you're early, come back later. Okay. Well, I'm here. And it's because I slept at 9:30. Like, if I could sleep at 9, I know it's not practical, but dude, 9:30. How old am I? I'm 28. I don't usually sleep at 9:30. 9:30, I woke up feeling refreshed, bro. I was like, goodness, what does sleep do to the body? That was incredible. VG right there, up a little bit in the pre-markets, 743. The Lakers lost. I did see that. Luka put up some big numbers. Unfortunately, they were not able to win. That's my bedtime. I wake up at 4:30. Yeah, I basically woke up around that time. I mean, that 9:30 to 4:30 routine has got to be incredible. Okay, so we should be getting CPI in 2 minutes. We're going to see what happens. See how the market reacts. Put in the chat, what do you think the number is going to be? Again, the expectation right here is 2.7 from all the big banks. I'm going to be basic and say 2.7. I want to say 2.6 because November was 2.6. Imagine it's 2.5, dude. Imagine this number's like way lower than expected. I wonder how the market reacts to it. Again, the GDP growth and the job numbers are reducing the chances for a rate cut because GDP is too hot, job numbers are too strong. We're at a 5% chance for January. But if we get a low CPI, the Fed kind of has no choice but to say, look, we can't just be so inundated with the labor market. We have to also look at the fact that inflation is coming down and we don't need to be as restrictive as we are. By the way, the ECB and all of the central banks came out and they are in support of Powell. That happened over the past 24 hours as they are standing with Powell in this criminal investigation that now he's going to have to go through based on what Trump said. So you've got a lot of central banks across the entire world. ECB, you can see right here, they put a statement that says we stand in full solidarity with the Federal Reserve System and its chair, Jay Powell. And they're trying to kind of push back against some of the arguments that Trump has been making about the investigation now. So I think this investigation is probably going to be something that we have to deal with over the coming months. Let's see how this ends up playing out. All right, most people say 2.6, 2.7. In about 30 seconds, we will get the answer. Dude, I remember back in freaking 2023, there was like literal heart-beating anxiety because we really needed inflation to come down. And I don't have that anxiety anymore, but it's still going to be a pretty important number. All right, I'm refreshing. Let's see. Let's see. What do we got? It's not out yet. It's loading. 2.6. 2.6, baby. 2.6. There you go. 2.6. That is a beat from 2.7 core inflation. Year over year, 2.6 inflation rate. 2.7. That's the headline or top. Sorry, core is at 2.6. Inflation's at 2.7. Core is the one that matters though, right? The expectation for core. Wow, interesting. So the expectation for core was 2.8 by the banks. The expectation for the headline was 2.7. The headline, they got it correct. It was 2.7. Core, they got it dead wrong. They said it was 2.8. We came in at 2.6. They got it 0.2% wrong, which is actually a pretty big deal. Core inflation rate month over month stayed the same at 0.2. And then inflation rate month over month was 0.3 versus 0.3. So everything came in line except the core year over year. Most banks thought it was 2.8. Expectations were 2.7. We came in at 2.6. What is the stock market doing? We are green across the board. S&P, look at that candle, baby. Oh my. Talk about some morning wood on the S&P 500. 696.50. Zeta up 1%. Marvell's up 1%. Nvidia up 0.5%. Micron's up 0.5%. Bitcoin gets 92. IREN, that's up 2.5%. You got Oracle, that's down a little bit. That had a great day yesterday. MicroStrategy is up. Palantir's up 0.35%. Duolingo's up 1%. Apple's still down. Baba's down. That was probably to be expected. Baba had a massive day yesterday, up 11%. So it's giving some of the back. Wow, Google, 335. 330 freaking 5 on Mr. Googs. Googs is the Max 7 that does not stop. Intel got a $60 price target today by Oppenheimer. Or no, sorry, it was Bernstein. It was our boy Stacy. I feel like Intel's a buy. I feel like Intel's a freaking buy. And the title of his report? The title of his report was Trump won't let Intel lose. I'm like, that's my thesis. And I'm not some fancy analyst at a bank. This fancy analyst is like, oh yeah, Trump's not going to let Intel lose. I'm like, all right, so we all think the same shit. We all think the same shit at this point. Intel right there, that's up 4%. Rocket Lab, that's at 1.5. Does she give us 90? She's been teasing us with 90, 89.30. Novo's up 1%. Silver's up again in the pre-market. Meta's up 0.34. Where is gold? Gold is up 0.06%. Silver, 87. That's a new all-time high for silver. That's a new all-time high for silver. 87 up 3%. BMNR up 2.67%. OSS crosses $12. That's up 14%. That one also is getting momentum. Big Bear AI is up 2%. JP Morgan, they had a great earnings. That's up 0.38. And the S&P 500, wow, 697. We are very, very close to that 7,000 level. And it's going to be pretty exciting to see if we are able to cross those numbers. All right, let's get a little bit more coverage on this. We'll get deeper into the numbers and we'll get into the headlines. For those that just joined, 2.6 versus 2.7 expected on core CPI, and the market likes it.
And in terms of the economy in general, I think there are certain areas that over time on a very long glide path can get closer to 2%. But I think the general awareness out there is that somewhere between 2 and 3, 2.5, 2 3/4, and some metrics as high as 3 is going to be the new normal. And we're just all going to have to get used to that. And over time, if it comes down a bit, that'll be a good thing. Hey, listen, the Fed has given 3 rate cuts for 2025. And personally, I think that matches the situation we're in.
All right, very good. Thank you, Rick Santelli. Join us now, Wall Street Journal chief economics commentator and deputy economics editor, Greg. Yep. Hey, so Greg, I did think of something when Rick was thinking. If you're putting in, let's say it's a $6,000 toilet and the wrench is $1,800 to put the toilet. I mean, you're going to get up into the, it's easy to get, I mean, what's $1 billion nowadays? It's not that much, is it?
So, I mean, if the point you're making is that like even modest rates of inflation still like add to the price level, no, you're absolutely right. But this is a good number for the Fed. It's a good number for the country that inflation is still relatively moderate. The core inflation.
This is a really good number for the Fed. We even got the freaking 10-year coming down. Take a look at this, 4.167. I mean, you are seeing some pretty exciting momentum across all asset classes, including the commodities, obviously the S&P 500, and then the 10-year coming down, which we really need that 10-year to come down. Remember, the reason the 10-year I don't think is coming down below 4% is not because we haven't lowered interest rates by 100 basis points, for example, but it's rather because the expectation of inflation continues to be higher. So even though we're lowering rates, people aren't buying bonds, which is causing yields to go up based on the idea that inflation is still going to be sticky and they want more bang for their buck, which is why they're not ready to buy at 4.165%. If the inflation expectations go down, people want to lock in their bond yields. And that means that more likely than not, we should be able to have a relatively strong push to the downside when it comes to these yields, which is obviously going to be very good for the stock market because that could get rates to come down. Obviously good for the mortgage market as well. The index for shelter rose 0.4% in December. That was the largest factor in all items monthly increase. The food index increased 0.7%. The energy index rose 0.3%. Index for all items less food and energy rose 0.2%. Indices that increase over the month include recreation, airline fares, medical care, apparel, personal care, and education. The indices for communication, used cars and trucks, household furnishings, and operations were among the major indices that decreased in December. Okay, so you have airline fares, medical care, apparel, education that went up. Used cars and trucks, I did not expect that to go down. Household furnishings, that makes sense because the housing market is frozen right now. And operations were the ones that went down. Food was up. Fruits and vegetables were up 0.5%. Dairy-related products were up 0.9%. Meat, poultry, fish was down along with eggs, 0.2% in December. Wow, eggs fell 8.2%. We're actually seeing some meaningful decline in eggs. Put in the chat if you eat eggs. I don't eat eggs that often, to be honest, but I guess that is one of the core foods that people eat, and that's down 8%. The food away from home index rose 0.7%. Full service meals, 0.8%. Energy, let's take a look at this. Natural gas increased 4.4%. Index for gasoline decreased 0.5%, which makes sense. Electricity index declined. Surprising. We're going to talk a lot about electricity today because our boy Donnie T definitely posted some stuff around data centers yesterday that we'll talk about, but electricity actually went down. Energy increased 2.3% over the past 12 months. Electricity index increased 6.7%. In contrast, the index for gasoline fell 3.4%. That explains why gas prices have been down, at least in the United States, getting to that 250 level on average. Wow, a lot of people eat eggs. I'm about to make an omelet right now. 12 eggs a day? Well, now I know who's responsible for the egg inflation. Goodness gracious. All right. A lot of you guys eat eggs. Okay. I didn't know. I didn't know eggs were that popular. It only eats medium rare eggs. Yeah, exactly. All right. So look, this CPI report is freaking good. Now, do we get a rug pull from this? All of us are way too used to being rug pulled. So obviously that's very possible. S&P 500 right there, 696, which is not too bad. We were up about 0.6%. 0.16% in the pre-market, but everything else, your high beta names, Archer, that's up, Oklo, that's up, Big Bear AI, that's up, OSS, that's up, JP Morgan, not high beta, but they had a good earnings, that's up 0.2%, Google's up 1%, AMD, wow, why is AMD up 3%? Maybe something specific there to Mr. AMD. We'll see a look at those results. We got a bunch of earnings to talk about that we'll get into as well, along with a ton of AI headlines. Amazon, that's up a little bit. Nebius finally breaking above 105. Nice to see Nebius holding on to that level. Iren broke out last night. Same thing with CoreWeave. Tesla getting a little bit of a pump as well at that 450 level. Shopify right there. Google signed a massive partnership with Apple yesterday. Google continuing to make its momentum higher. 334.97 now above a $4 trillion market cap. ASML's flat. SMCI got a sell rating today, unfortunately. This has ended up being one of the crappiest semiconductor names over the past year. TMDX, that's up 1%. Walmart's flat. And then silver again, up 2% in the pre-market. Bitcoin not really making a massive move. 92 is good to see, given we were stuck at 91.5, got to 92.4, then once again took a little bit of a downturn. It's been really stuck in this 90 to 94 range. So breaking above 94 would be nice, but there you go, Bitcoin right there at 92. Oh yes, AMD did get a price target at 270. You're right. I did see that this morning. That is probably what's helping AMD get some of this momentum. Yeah, KeyBank upgraded AMD to 270. Wow, they actually downgraded AMD in April, and they're reversing their claim now. We estimate that AI revenues will be 14 to 15 billion this year, led through their MI450 chip. Okay, there you go. That's why AMD is getting some love. All right, so let's get into all of the stuff we have to talk about. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. The reason we are early is because we had CPI. CPI came in way better than expected. Not way better, but good enough. 2.6 versus 2.7 on core. Market likes it. And if we can continue seeing CPI come down to these levels, then obviously this would be good for the broader equity markets. Okay, cool. So let's get into a bunch of stuff going on. Do we have any other updates on CPI? I don't think we do. I mean, we talked about the main stuff. We do have a breaking headline right here from Microsoft. Let me pull this up real quick. Ironically, the story I was about to talk about has to do with Microsoft. So let's take a look at this real quick, and then we'll get into what Trump said last night about Microsoft. Yes, we do have the tariff ruling tomorrow, which, by the way, let me just say this right now, guys. I will probably be doing the market open from my parents' house tomorrow because I actually checked my email last night, and the email said that the power is going to be out tomorrow again at 9 a.m. They said this is the final time. They said this is the final time we are completing our fix of the generator. I thought the previous final time was the final time, but I'm not taking a chance. They said my floor won't be affected. I don't care. I'm not taking a chance. We are going to make sure that we're live without any interruption. So your building sucks. I know I paid too much stupid rent for this to be happening, but I blame the data centers. I'm taking one for the team so that your AI stocks can go higher.
Is out with an announcement this morning of 5 core principles that will guide the company's data center expansion around the country and in theory mitigate some of the political blowback that we've seen around water use, power consumption, and quality of life in impacted communities. President Trump, you saw him posting about it on social media last night. The president said, "I never want Americans to pay higher electricity bills because of data centers. Therefore, my administration is working."
That was the story I was going to talk about. Okay, so it seems like, okay, so that was the segment I was going to get into. It seems like this is Microsoft's response. So let me just preview it real quick because this is really important. Trump last night came out with a statement that basically said, hey, no one in this country is going to deal with the data center costs and higher electricity bills that is not actually setting up the data centers, aka average Americans like you and I. And so he says, my administration is working with major American tech companies to secure their commitment to the American people, and we will have much to announce in the coming weeks. Now, a lot of people have been waiting for the administration to do something about the rising electricity costs because obviously we're not the ones that are contributing to it, even if we're using AI products. It's the tech companies that are getting most of the benefit in terms of increased profits because of all these data centers, but average people have to pay higher electricity costs. Now, this is obviously also a plea for the midterms. I mean, he's making a real argument around affordability here and showing that he's taking a proactive step to not only increase GDP, but also increase affordability. And so it seems like Microsoft, which was outlined in his Truth Social post yesterday as the first company that will be working to mitigate electricity costs, it seems like based on this headline, they are announcing an initiative to offset AI data center impact on local communities. And that is the headline we have today following up from Trump's tweet last night.
With major American technology companies to secure their commitment to the American people. And we will have much to announce in the coming weeks. First up is Microsoft, who my team has been working with and which will make major changes beginning this week to ensure that Americans don't pick up the tab for their power consumption in the form of paying higher utility bills. Now, Microsoft says it's going to abide by 5 new core principles as it builds out its infrastructure. They say, we'll pay our way to ensure our data centers don't increase your electricity prices. We'll minimize our water use and replenish more of your water than we use. We'll create jobs for your residents. We'll add to the tax base for your local hospitals, schools, parks, and libraries. And we'll strengthen your community by investing in local AI training and nonprofits. And the company says that it's unfair politically and unrealistic for tech companies to ask the public to shoulder added electricity costs for AI. So among other things, the company is committing to not asking for tax breaks from local communities as it builds out its infrastructure. Now, Microsoft President Brad Smith is in DC today to talk about all this, and I'll be interviewing him exclusively here on CNBC at 10:30 a.m. Guys, back over to you.
Okay. Eamon, want to thank you for that. We'll be looking forward to that.
Okay, so here's the question for everybody. Do we believe that the tech companies are actually going to do something about this, or are they going to be the greedy tech companies that they have always been? And what I mean by that is you've got a lot of skepticism from the tech companies, which is the idea that, hey, they say they're going to increase or decrease the energy costs by trying to mitigate different forms of data center prices going up. But in reality, they'll charge you a couple bucks extra for your subscription on ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, or Copilot. And they're going to use that to be able to foot the bill, AKA the consumer's still going to pay for it somehow. It'll just be some type of hidden cost inside their actual services that they provide. And as a result, that cost will be demarcated to say, hey, this is how we're going to pay for the energy. I think there's a world where that obviously happens, but I also think there's a world where that's not possible because the demand for these data centers are so vast and so strong that there's going to actually need to be some initiative, as Microsoft was talking about in that previous clip, of being able to protect local communities. Now, I don't know how they're going to do it without this eating into their profit margins. I mean, like the money's got to come from somewhere, right? And it's either going to come from the people in the local community that are paying higher energy bills, or it's going to have to be subsidized. Like it's one or the other. Maybe it comes in the form of a tax rebate where like Portland gives Microsoft a tax break if Microsoft subsidizes the electricity costs inside of Portland. Like maybe that's how it happens. But then again, Portland is not incentivized to do that because they want to collect more tax revenue from the big tech companies. So I don't know. I mean, we're going to really have to see how this ends up playing out. But I think there are going to be a variety of initiatives. And this is just Microsoft, by the way, that Trump announced last night. Obviously, Google, there's so many other companies that are going to have to play a role in rising energy costs. The S&P 500 right there, 695.75. So I think it's a good thing. But once again, it goes into this argument around affordability and the midterms. And I actually think this is really bullish for the data centers stocks like Iran, Nebius, CoreWeave. If they continue to partner with the big tech companies to potentially make it easier for them to expand the land that they use, the types of GPUs that they use, the ability to sort of navigate their ability to connect with the grid. I mean, there's a very complex logistical challenge. At the end of the day, someone's going to have to pay the bill. I don't know who's going to end up paying it, but if it's not the consumer, that's a win. If it is the company, it's not the best for the investor, but at the end of the day, you know, we don't have these companies if local governments force out data centers. So if Iran has to go into their profit margins or Microsoft and pay a little bit, I think that's an inevitable cost that is going to have to happen. So once again, you've got Trump being on the side of the people. I think 2025, Trump was on the side of Wall Street explicitly, going to every single country in the world and saying, hey, I'm going to tariff the crap out of you if you don't invest a ton of money specifically in AI. You got Japan, South Korea, the EU, all these guys to invest. Now he's like, credit cards capped at 10%. No buybacks for defense contractors, no dividends for defense contractors. I want companies to pay for their data center costs. I want to be able to make sure that companies like Blackstone can't buy up tons and tons of houses. Like it seems like the midterm narrative is becoming more intact with how Trump is throwing things at the wall. And quite frankly, he should be throwing things at the wall because why not? I mean, he's the president and he's trying to win the midterms. The question is what implication these policies have on the American public. And it's only 13 days into the year, so I don't think we fully know, but he's definitely trying. And I think it makes sense that he's trying at these higher levels. So that's what we got from Trump, and that's what we have with the electricity prices. Now, the big story yesterday really had to do with Meta, which I think follows up from the data center stuff. For those that missed it, Meta is officially setting up something called Meta Compute, which is their new initiative to be able to bring data centers online and have excess capacity for compute. There's a bearish and a bullish perspective to this. The bullish perspective is that Iran, Nebius, CoreWeave, Cypher, APLD, all these companies are now going to be working with Meta. I think Nebius got a like $5 billion deal from Meta on their last earnings to continue building out data centers and compute. Zuck says we want to engineer hundreds of gigawatts over time. 1 gigawatt, if I'm not wrong, is around $20 to $25 billion to deploy. Zuck is talking about hundreds of gigawatts. I mean, it's quite incredible. And so the bullish argument is that they're going to have to work with a lot of these neoclouds. Meta might become the ultimate neocloud in this case to be able to get this stuff online and obviously be able to bring Meta Compute to the world, which would allow them to compete with GCP, AWS, Azure, and that would be a new line of business for Meta, which would also be more AI revenues. The bearish perspective here is, wait a second, why is Meta so focused on establishing Meta Compute and outsourcing it to other companies and selling it? Now, they haven't said that they're trying to sell compute to other companies, but if that's the core understanding of the initiative, doesn't mean that Meta doesn't know what to do with all the compute that they're buying, which is a legitimate question, because it's like, if you are the pure play software AI company, you're not the AI infrastructure company like a Google, Microsoft, or Amazon, then you need to be showing a return on investment on that software that you're deploying with AI, but also you need to be showing new initiatives. And the most we've got from Zuck is Meta AI, which is a chatbot that's not even that good. The glasses, which has some AI oriented into it, but not enough, I think, to become a pure AI product. And then advertising, which is cool, but it's advertising. It's not that big of a deal. So I think this is more bullish than not, because obviously I think them being able to generate more AI revenue is important. And if they can't generate AI revenue just from advertising, then they're obviously going to need to be able to do it from selling something external like services. Even a couple of Meta employees actually commented under my post yesterday, or former Meta employees, and they were just like, when I worked at Meta, I don't know why, we never sold the internal business services that we were using in the company to other companies. I don't know why we didn't have a more robust B2B enterprise business outside of advertising. And it looks like now that's what they're trying to do. Not to mention, they're also cutting about 1,500 Reality Lab jobs. 10% of their Reality Lab staff is roughly 15,000. So they're cutting about 1,500 jobs. This is also going to be bullish to save on some of the costs on a money-losing business. I think this thing loses about $4 billion every quarter. The problem here is that Bloomberg back in December reported that this would be 30%, and it's only 10%. So if it's only a 10% layoff versus a 30% layoff, the street might not be that excited about the cost-cutting measures that they're taking, which is why Meta barely up in the pre-market. This was just not enough, along with Meta Compute, to get this thing to pump. And so that's what you got on Meta. But once again, the data center thesis continues to be strong, and Trump seems to be on the side of the consumer when it comes to dealing with these data centers. Archer's up 1%, Oklo's up 3.38%, Zeta is up about 1%, 2450 in the pre-market, SoFi up 1%, Micron up 0.5%, Nvidia up 0.38%, AMD up on that upgrade. Rocket Lab, did we touch 90? We are close, 88.75, but we have not touched 90. Not yet. Where's Microsoft on that news? Is Microsoft down? Yeah, Microsoft's down a little bit. Microsoft's been in the gutter to start the year. Not really getting a big move. In terms of OSS, again, I think there is definitely some FOMO happening on this name. Look, this is a small cap. It's incredibly volatile. It can obviously go down by like 20, 30% a day. Now, the good thing about OSS, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they need to dilute. From the financials I was looking at last night, I don't think they need to do like this Ondas level of $1 billion raise and then have warrants that end up diluting the share. Like, I don't think they need to do that given the cash position that they have, but they might. Their stock's up a lot, 40% to start the year. It was up 30% yesterday. So, I mean, any company might say, hey, this is an opportunity for us to raise money. Quite frankly, if they do that and we get a dip back to like that $8, $9 range, I would be more excited for it, given the fundamentals of the company. But it is a small cap. And so I would be hesitant to FOMO here because one red day on the S&P, I mean, that thing could drop pretty dramatically. But it is rallying right here. Fear and greed is at 58. So we are officially in greed, folks. It has taken us 2 weeks to get there, but we are officially in greed. This is usually when things start to slow down just a little bit, or quite frankly, things start to speed up a little bit before we get to extreme greed. People start taking profits in greed. But like when we get to extreme greed, that's when it like becomes a clear sell signal. We're not there yet. I wonder what level the S&P has to get there in order for us to be there. Remember, we were at extreme fear. We were at 4 on this index back in November when the S&P was down 5%. So we are a long way since then. The S&P is basically up, I think, like 5% since then. But we are in greed right now. And so we're going to have to see if that continues going higher as we get into earnings week, which let's talk about right now, given we have earnings. Silver is at an all-time high. Yes, we talked about it, 87.50. Again, if you're on the silver train, you sit back and enjoy the ride. If you're not in it, obviously, I think there is a bit more risk getting here. But then again, if you think there is a real thesis, which there is a very legitimate thesis around the shortage of silver, the industrial use case, then maybe you tip your toe in. The question simply becomes, like, is this a 2011 scenario where a variety of things converge together to be able to form a pretty aggressive top on the asset class? I don't think so. Like, I know that there were theories of that a couple of weeks ago, but when you hear all the different elements of how silver is being used, and again, the fact that we're going to keep printing money and we weren't printing money as aggressively in 2011 versus how we are doing right now, it seems obvious that this is the answer to the debasement trade. It's not Bitcoin right now. It's not Ethereum. It's silver and gold. And if it continues to be silver and gold, then, I mean, yeah, silver is going to keep doing well. So it does look like it has a date with Destiny, and Destiny's name is $100. So that might continue to be the upside as we go into silver. Mitt says, I'd rather buy Palantir than silver. You know, speaking of Palantir, we do have earnings February 2nd. It was announced yesterday, February 2nd. So lock in your calendar, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. I will not have a market open on February 2nd because we have the New York meetup on February 1st, and I'm probably going to be dead in the morning. So I will not be able to do the market open on February 2nd, but we will have a market close, and that market close will be Palantir earnings. And we're going to see what they can do. I mean, you had Citi that came out yesterday saying Palantir is going to accelerate to 70 to 80% revenue growth. If that's what they end up guiding for, it's going to be very exciting. Very, very exciting. But we got to see if Palantir can put up those numbers. Bitcoin right there, 92,000. Google at 331. BMNR up 2% than the S&P 500. Kind of gave back that 697 move. Now we're flat, but CPI was still pretty decent. Okay, earnings. So let's get into it. JP Morgan earnings, they're up 0.26%. We had Delta. That stock is actually down, even though they had a relatively strong earnings. And then Bank of New York Mellon, they also had their earnings. Let's pull up JP Morgan, and then we'll get into some of the other companies that reported this morning as well.
Is actually out with its fourth quarter results. Leslie Picker has those results, and she joins us right now. Hi, Leslie.
Hey, Becky. Yeah, going through these results right now, I see for EPS, the company reporting $5.23 per share. That is excluding the impact from the Apple Card, which impacted EPS by about 60 cents per share. You can see shares up about 1% on these results. Top line was a beat, coming in at $46.767 billion. Analysts were expecting $46.2 billion for EPS. Net income, $13.025 billion. That was down about 7%. Investment banking fees down about 5% year over year and 11% quarter over quarter. Looking at net charge-offs again, that was impacted by that Apple Card forward purchase, which resulted in about a $2.1 billion reserve build here. Book value per share in the quarter coming in at $126.99 per share. In the release, we have some commentary from Chairman and CEO Jamie Dimon, who said the U.S. economy has remained resilient. While labor markets have softened, conditions do not appear to be worsening. So, some kind of optimistic commentary there.
Overall, a decent earnings. I mean, Diamond says the U.S. economy has remained resilient. Labor markets have softened. Conditions do not appear to be worsening. Meanwhile, consumers continue to spend and businesses generally remain healthy. These conditions could persist for some time, particularly with the ongoing fiscal stimulus, the benefits of deregulation, the Fed's recent monetary policy. However, as usual, we remain vigilant and markets seem to underappreciate the potential hazards, including from complex geopolitical conditions, the risk of sticky inflation, and elevated asset prices. Now, this is a relatively bullish Jamie Dimon. For those that know Jamie Dimon, he tends to be bearish all the time, like all the time when it comes to just the stock market earnings. Last month, he called out the cockroaches of private credit, which he was right about to an extent. We just haven't had some massive private credit issue yet, which maybe we will have this year. But he tends to try to be more bearish. I mean, the fact that this paragraph from him in terms of his remarks on earnings is, hey, we're good. Like, yeah, we're cautious of certain things that could happen, but overall, we're not that scared. Either that's super bearish because now Jamie Dimon is bullish, or that's bullish because even Jamie Dimon is realizing, hey, like this could be a pretty good year and there's no need to kind of ring the alarm if the alarm doesn't need to be rung. So from that perspective, I think that's relatively recent for the banks. And if JP Morgan, the biggest bank in the world, has a good earnings, then the rest of the banks are probably going to have a good earnings as well. Then you have Delta, revenue 14.6 versus 14.7, slight miss. EPS 155 versus 152. That's a beat. Q4 operating margins at 9.2%. CEO said we generated $5 billion of pre-tax profit with double-digit operating margins and record free cash flow of $4.6 billion, all while navigating a challenging environment. For the full year, we expect to deliver margin expansion and earnings growth of 20% year over year. Again, an airline growing 20% year over year. You can imagine the TSMCs, the Googles, the Amazons of the world, they're going to be able to keep up some pretty decent growth rates if companies like Delta can do that as well. In 2026, we expect another year of cost performance aligned to our long-term framework on capacity growth of approximately 3%. Now, Delta stock, not really doing the best. I'm not sure what exactly the street is upset about. That's down about 4%. Delta last year, I think, had a decent year. Maybe that was United. Year to date, it's still up 2%. Yeah, over the past year, it's up 10%, nothing too crazy. Past 6 months, it's up 22%. But stock is down 4% in the pre-market. So far, the consumer companies, when it comes to airlines and banks are consumer and business companies, but ultimately they serve consumers, put up some decent earnings. And then you had Bank of New York Mellon as well that crushed it on the top and the bottom. Let me pull up their earnings right here. They beat EPS by 5% and revenue by, they're flat in the pre-markets by 1%. So once again, showing that, like, yeah, the earnings are strong. And hopefully the earnings continue to be strong. Bank of New York Mellon right there. You can see revenue or EPS up 5%. on a beat of 21% year over year. Revenues up 7% year over year, beat by about 1%. Now, tomorrow is going to be really important as well. We're going to get a lot more earnings. Thursday, we get TSMC. Tomorrow, we get Bank of America, Citi, and Wells Fargo. Thursday, we get TSM, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and BlackRock. So those are going to be companies that are also really important, but navigating all those earnings hopefully will continue to show that this, I guess, beginning of 2026 is not necessarily in a bad space. Robinhood in the pre-markets, what do we got going on? We are up a little bit, 118. Robinhood again has been stuck kind of in a range of about $5 from 112 to 117. Rock Lab right there, 88.84. That's up. Meta's up 0.6%. Iren is up 2%. Google, once again, another 1%, continues to get momentum. VG, nice little 750 breakout. See if that can hold. Oklow's up 3%. Nvidia's up 0.38. And then Micron is up 0.47% as well. Okay, let's get into some of the other headlines. So we had a bunch of different macro things come out over the past 24 hours. Again, for those that are joining, CPI came in, was better than expected, 2.6 versus 2.7 on the core. Market liked it, and that's why you're seeing some of the momentum in the pre-markets. Here's a couple of charts that I want to show everybody in regards to different things that are going on in macro. Again, tomorrow, the big headline is the Supreme Court news. Hopefully, we actually get an answer. Around 10 a.m., we should get that answer. And if that answer is bullish, well, the market will decide if it's bullish or bearish. I mean, you do have a couple of reports I was reading last night saying that Trump is going to find a way to like get the Supreme Court to be on his side on a specific exemption that he thinks the Supreme Court is going to be looking at to like constitutionally make the argument that it's okay to have the tariffs. But realistically, tomorrow's going to give us the answer. Here's a chart right here by Goldman Sachs. I thought this was pretty interesting. Their estimate is that the average card yield for credit cards back in Q3 was 18%. Which is obviously 800 basis points above the proposed 10% APR cap. Trump did say 2 days ago, again, the companies that are in violation of the law, which I don't know exactly what the law is because there is no law, but the law of a 10% cap by January 20th will be in violation. We're going to see if that violation actually becomes a real violation. But based on Goldman Sachs, it would obviously meaningfully affect credit card companies as they were 800 basis points above the levels that the average credit card would be at, or what Trump ultimately wanted to be at. ECB, again, they came out and they said, we stand in full solidarity with the Federal Reserve System and its chairman, Jerome Powell. You do have a lot of people coming out and saying that, hey, we can't have the political types of investigations that are going on with the United States in the way that they're happening. And so Jay Powell is getting more support from people across the world. Question is going to be, how long does this investigation last? And again, the market's not really reacting to it. The market doesn't care. So it's kind of more entertainment than anything, but hopefully it ends up getting resolved. And as of now, we're not necessarily seeing a resolution if Trump wants to continue holding on to this investigation. Japan's 10-year yield got to the highest level since 1999 yesterday, 2.17%. Their 30-year is also at the highest level in history. At some point, you got a lot of people thinking this is going to break. If you look at the yen over the dollar, JPY over USD, we are at, or USD over JPY, we are at 158 Japanese yen for $1 US. Great for Americans that are traveling to Japan, not the best for Japanese citizens that are traveling to the United States. It's up 7% in the past 6 months. In the past 10 years, it's up 34%. Past 5 years, up 53%. I mean, if this thing gets closer to 170, which I think where it was at 2.5 years ago, obviously we could have some issues. So, I mean, it's still decent for people that are borrowing in yen and using dollars, but question becomes, at what point does this break? And as of now, for the people that thought there would be some massive yen carry trade and there would be like this horrible collapse, like that just hasn't happened yet. A lot of the bear cases from the end of 2025 have not materially played out. In fact, you can say we've gotten basically a end of year rally starting in January, which is culminated in this January factor where we're seeing high beta get a bid. And the S&P, it's not just like a meme stock rally because the S&P 500 is at all-time highs, which is why I think it's more complicated than not to say that you want to go short right now or you want to start selling. It's not just high beta names, which a lot of them are in certain thematics, and those thematics are helping them really well. It's also the S&P 500 that's being led by a lot of different things. And as a result, we're not seeing as much pain across the broad market, even if like NVIDIA is not the name that's going higher. I'll put in the chat the green or red poll and see what people are thinking for today. I think we've had 7 out of the last 8 trading sessions go green. Yeah, 7 out of the last 8 trading sessions go green. We've had 1 red day in the past 8 trading sessions. I mean, continues, then it's going to be a strong month regardless. Green or red today. But I was looking at some stats this morning as well, and it's actually supposed to be a good month for January. I mean, if you take a look at this this chart right here, this one shows you that January tends to be actually one of the best months of the year. On a seasonality perspective, September tends to be the worst. December tends to be also really good, but January, 1.21% on average, 62% of the time, going back to 1928, has been really good for the S&P 500. The actual stat is that only 37 of the past 97 years have produced a negative return in January. On average, January is up 1.2%. And even more interesting is that when the S&P 500 ends January in the green, the index goes on to post a median full year gain of 11.8%, finishing positive nearly 80% of the time. Most of the analysts are expecting that the S&P 500 will close around that 7,700 range, which would be about 12% from here. So it would be in line with historical expectations if we actually get 4 green years in a row. Wouldn't February be bad? Yeah, so February tends to not be the best. And a lot of the analysts are February is going to be like what it was in 2024, where we got pretty epic drawdown. I wonder what the catalyst would be for that, though, because although February we had a bit of euphoria last year and then it all came crashing down, those were amazing prices to buy the dip on because everything came back up. But the thing that broke the market was the tariffs. It was very Trump induced, to be honest. I mean, as soon as he started saying we're going to tariff everybody, the culmination of that happened in April, but the beginning of that happened in early February. That's what the market's down in March and April and kind of led to Liberation Day. I wonder if there's some type of massive event that leads to that again. And hopefully it doesn't, but that could be something that ends up playing out. Red Cat right there, that's up 7% in the pre-market. A lot of these drone stocks getting some momentum. Ondas up another 2.5%. Crater was up 1.6% as well. Is the mic still bad? Mic not good? Yes, no. Why is the mic being stupid? Okay, hold on. Let me change. Audio in and out. Yes, better. Better, yes, no. Or are we bad? Good. No bueno. Okay, hold on. Let me actually pivot. Give me 1 sec. We're gonna look at Delta earnings and then let me pivot.
Delta beating on the bottom line for the fourth quarter, earning $1.55 a share, 2 cents better than the street estimate. As for revenue, a little bit shy of expectations, coming in at $14.61 billion. As for the metrics within the fourth quarter, here they are. Cost or revenue per available seat mile down not much, less than 1%, 0.1% compared to the Q4 of 24. Cost per seat mile up.
Okay, how about now? Are we good? Are we good? All I did was plug it in and out, which usually helps. Mike's good as long as you don't talk. Dude, literally we plug it in and out and it works. It's so stupid. All right. Well, all I was saying was January tends to be a good month. February, the reason February sucked last year is because Trump ended up starting the whole tariff stuff, which culminated in Liberation Day in April. So if we don't have some massive triggering event in February, which theoretically could happen, but if it doesn't happen like it happened last year, then maybe February, the party keeps going. I mean, it's hard to assume that the party can continue for 2 months at this type of a level, but if there's not some triggering of an event, then maybe it will. And maybe that won't be necessarily the worst in the world. Dan Ives, he has 350 on Apple. Here's what he said yesterday for why he thinks Apple should be one of the biggest beneficiaries of AI going into next year.
Just the beginning for Google, what they're doing, but it also speaks why for Apple, they need to do the candlelight dinner, between Sundar and Cook, because the only way Apple's, in my opinion, the watershed moment is ultimately Google, next Siri. That's going to be what I believe the consumer AI revolution ultimately goes to Apple and Google.
There's a guy named Elon Musk. I don't know if you heard of him.
I heard of him.
Yeah, he's done okay in business. And he X tweeted out today that basically Alphabet, Google, and Apple teaming up may be a little bit too close for comfort. He says this seems like an unreasonable concentration of power for Google, given that they, meaning Google, also have Android, the operating system, and Chrome. I could make the case why he's saying that. You've got Android and Google on a phone, and the other operating system's Apple. Now they're coming together. Are you worried about that?
Look, I mean, it speaks to the point like that DOJ by Google winning that case. That was significant because now Apple and Google really partner up. And look, I get what Musk is saying, but the reality is stronger going to get stronger. And when you look where Apple is, they need to go with Google. They've obviously AI has been a huge disappointment for them. You look what Gemini's built. I mean, this is now what we're seeing. This AI arms race that's playing out. Google went from bottom of the mountain to now at the top relative to what we're seeing with Gemini.
Yeah, but do you think that regulators, and I'm asking you obviously to editorialize and speculate, which is what we do, why not?
Of course.
That when this happens and integrates in this new Siri upgrade that we referred to, that regulators are going to come back and say, nah, this is too much. Google in an Apple phone, you got all the things.
Yeah, and I think that's why once Google won that DOJ suit, big tech, you're a car guy. They got the engines ready, gasoline, left lane, 100 miles an hour, recognizing now is the time to do strategic partnerships like this, to do acquisitions. And I think that's what we're going to see in the next few years.
But it's kind of weird. Why would, I guess, and Sundar Pichai could answer this a lot better. Why would Alphabet do this? Why would they want to make Apple products better when they have their own massively competing product?
Sure.
Or do they just not care? They just want to be everywhere.
There's about 2.4 billion reasons, 2.4 billion iOS devices, and about 1.5 billion reasons on the iPhone why they want to do this. Because for them, this is going to give them the opportunity to monetize within that install base. For Apple, they need Google relative to just the LLM, what's going to be ultimately a subscription model. So both companies need each other, and I think they finally recognize, but the reality is this never was going to be able to happen without that DOJ win. But you go back to Apple on AI, they've been on a treadmill at 2.0 speed, right? They've been nowhere. Finally, clock struck midnight. You've seen the changes internally at Apple relative to new leaders coming in. Now with Google, look, I think $75 to $100 per share upside. I view it, Brian, I think Apple in 2026 is what Google was in 2025 relative to what stock did.
If that's the case, Apple's going to have a hell of a year. And look, I don't think Dan is necessarily wrong on that, even though the multiple on Apple is pretty strong. Here's the biggest thing. Google obviously wants the distribution, so that makes sense to me. 2.4 billion devices, like Google, even though they have a competing device. A lot of people are actually, from what I've heard anecdotally, are switching to the Pixel, which I'm probably never going to switch to a Pixel device, but there are people that are compelled, particularly because of the AI features on that Pixel, to switch from the iPhone. So Google being able to bring their AI to 2.4 billion users is actually really important. For Apple, they get the benefit of all of this AI momentum without spending a single dollar on CapEx. Realistically, now they spent money on CapEx, but not to the hundreds of billions of dollars that Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta are spending on. So Google got to develop these massive models, Gemini 3, we're probably going to get Gemini 4 this year, that continues to get better and better and better, really competitive with ChatGPT, Anthropic, et cetera. And Apple has to do nothing other than say, hey, we have the ecosystem, the infrastructure, the distribution that we can just put Google into. I think this is very synergistic. I think this is very similar to 2009 when they partnered on search. Google got paid Apple like $20 billion a year, but they got massive amounts of an ROI on that $20 billion because of all the different search results they were getting basically for a decade of people just typing into Safari and the default search engine being Google. If everything we do from an audio perspective, search perspective is rooted in an AI interface over the next 10 years, which it seems like that is inevitable, and Gemini is the underlying foundation for that, I don't see how that's not bullish for Google. And if Apple has a meaningful AI device or an AI piece of software to the future devices, I don't see how that's not bullish for Apple. So I think both of these stocks this year can have a really good year. And I'm surprised Apple's actually been down to start the year, but Google getting the benefit of the doubt. Also, we can't deny Berkshire is now in Google. You've got a seal of approval from Berkshire. One could argue that they potentially knew that Google and Apple were going to work together. That's why they were so confident for this. They have a massive position in Apple. And so Google only enhancing Apple, I think, makes it smarter. Also, Apple just launched something called Creator Studio subscription, $12.99 a month for Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, and other creative apps. So brand new subscription, $130 a year or $12.99 a month, called Creator Studio subscription. I think Apple is going to probably launch some type of AI subscription in the future as well, that they're going to monetize at like 10, 15 bucks a month. And if they get a couple 100 million people to pay for that, then obviously that would be another stream of revenue for Apple. Apple's also probably going to grow the highest they've ever grown in the past couple of years at 12% in Q4. So this should be a strong earnings for them. Do you think there will be a cycle out of gold? I don't see that happening right now. The simple reason is that the dollar continues to become debased. And central banks, we looked at a chart yesterday, have bought 96 tons of gold as of Q3. I mean, is there a world where the gold rally slows down, given we're at all-time highs? Of course, silver, a new all-time high, by the way, 88.28, up 3.5%. But if the dollar continues to be devalued and we continue to keep money printing, which we are going to absolutely do, I think gold's a winner. But also I think Bitcoin's a winner. Now, Bitcoin's not cooperating with that thesis. Gold is cooperating with it. So there's probably some bigger forces that are choosing gold over Bitcoin. But I don't see over the next 20 years how the dollar is not less valuable than it is today, which means people are going to want to get a hedge to that. And that ends up becoming gold. Now, silver has the industrial use case. But like, to say there's going to be some massive top in both of these assets, it obviously could happen because, I mean, they've gone parabolic, and usually that tends to happen after being parabolic. But also, our spending has gone parabolic, and, you know, COVID kind of accelerated that. The ramifications of it are starting to finally catch up, given we printed like $10 trillion in 18 months. And that's why I think these assets are catching a bid at the level that they're catching a bid at. You know what's not catching a bid? Meme coins. Meme coins are so 2025. I mean, I feel like we left meme coins in last year. However, there is somebody that has not left meme coins in 2025. Folks, Mayor Eric Adams, or former Mayor Eric Adams of New York City, launched a meme coin called New York City Coin. It hit a $580 million market cap before crashing 80%. I, quite frankly, could not believe that this happened. I thought this had to be a joke, so I went to Eric Adams' account, and no, it's very real. He launched a meme coin.
Brother, all right, take care. I can't believe this. Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
I want to put the audio off in case there's copyright, but this was his promotion video. It's called Buy NYC Token. And yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on here, but there you go. I really couldn't believe this last night. I thought we were done with meme coins, but apparently we were not done. So yeah, the meme coin went out, lost 80% of value. People are saying that because of the dynamics of the meme coin, Eric Adams did sell his stake before it got rugged. Let me see if I can get yeah, it's saying that Eric Adams, based on the USDC address, took out 3.4 million from the liquidity pool of his meme coin, which means it peaked at 580 million. The record is showing he took out about 3.5 million. And as a result, he made a nice 3.4 million on his meme coin. Again, I thought this was 2025. You know, we had Trump do it, we had Melania do it, we had a bunch of these other celebrities do it, and now it looks like Eric Adams said, you know what, let me get into it. So hopefully that's the last of meme coins we have to deal with, dude. I mean, the biggest use case of Solana last year was meme coins, and although Solana is an incredibly important blockchain, that was the biggest thing people cared about. I don't know if people are going to care about it that much anymore. The trading of meme coins was a big deal. You had Robinhood listing all these coins, Coinbase listing all these coins. I think people just don't care anymore, given the crypto sentiment is also down for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I don't even know how we got this thing to go up to 580 million. I didn't know there was that much demand. If he did this last year, it probably would have got up to a billion, a couple billion. Hawk girl, yeah. She really ruined her life over this shit. She had a really good trajectory to become like a big media figure. And she ended up kind of losing all credibility. So that's what we have with meme coins, and this one ended up getting rugged. I will never launch a coin. If you ever see an emit coin, please don't buy it, because I'm never going to be launching a coin itself. I wonder how one launches their own meme coins. You know, it's actually simple. There's a lot of these crypto websites make it really easy to launch a coin. You just need to have a lot of people like put in the liquidity in the beginning to like have it trigger the alerts on new coins that are launched. But that also means you have to be able to like have the ability to get more people in and then eventually rug pull when it comes out. Okay, so let's talk about the other big news that came out yesterday. We got about 10 minutes until the market opens. Now, this news that came out yesterday, by the way, CrowdStrike just acquired a company. I'm seeing that news right now. CrowdStrike and Palo Alto continue to acquire multiple companies a year. They acquired Seraphic, turning any browser into a secure enterprise browser. More and more consolidation in the cybersecurity space. The biggest news of yesterday wasn't even Trump talking about data centers and energy. It wasn't him saying Microsoft's going to work to lower energy costs. I don't think it was CPI this morning. I think the biggest news of the past 24 hours, it wasn't the Meta compute stuff. It wasn't Pete Hegseth and Elon Musk, where we have some clips of that we'll watch. It was what Anthropic released. So Anthropic, which is known for coding for the most in regards to Claude code. Here's the video of the newest thing that came out. It's called Claude Cowork, which is essentially letting you complete non-technical tasks like how developers use Claude code. And this has gone completely viral over the past 24 hours. A lot of stuff that a typical employee / white collar worker / consultant would be doing. Checking calendars right now, prepping a stand-up desk, connecting to your Google Calendar, looking at meeting transcripts. Is X down? Yeah, X is down for me right now. So if some people are not able to log on to X, my X is down right now as well. All of this via natural language. Now, the cool thing about this is that this Claude Cowork, which got 26 million views yesterday. Two things. Number one, it was built by Claude Code. So one of the head researchers at Anthropic said the entire thing that they built Claude Cowork on, which is all the examples you just saw, plus like thousands of other use cases that are in there, was built entirely by Claude Code, which means Claude coded the thing itself, which is kind of crazy. Number two is that a lot of startups died yesterday. A lot of startups. The amount of AI startups that are hyper specialized in meeting summaries or event organization or management of data or calendar analysis and calendar agentic workflows, all of that is happening inside of Claude Cowork. This is why I think the enterprise business of Anthropic is thriving, and it's going to keep thriving. A lot of people are questioning what the hell is OpenAI doing. I mean, this is the stuff that OpenAI should be coming out with immediately, or they should have already come out with this stuff if they really do have the best model. But instead, it's Anthropic. And Anthropic's doing it at an incredible level. The response to this was just phenomenal. A lot of people were excited about this. And then you started seeing examples because they released it in a beta, and people are already using it for a variety of different things. Let me pull up a couple of examples right here. Some of the stuff was just incredible to see. Now, what is the implication for all of this as investors, even if you're not invested in Anthropic, which if you're invested in Google and Amazon, you technically are? It means that AI is real. And the more use cases that we get for AI, the more and more examples we're going to see, the more and more data centers we have to build. The fact that Claude Code coded Claude Work, which looks like a massive product, I can only imagine the trillions and quadrillions of tokens that were involved to make that happen. You need data centers, you need GPUs to make that happen. Here is an example of someone connecting Claude to Blender using 3D modeling with prompts. I mean, this is just incredible. This is just absolutely incredible. And this is within Claude Code and Claude Cowork. So yeah, I think I think once again, for those that are doubting AI, saying it's not real. I mean, like, what world are we going back to? A world where we don't have these types of natural language prompts to be able to create the type of momentum that we were creating? Yeah, Microsoft Copilot, one could argue, should be this, right? The whole concept of Copilot is that it's like your assistant that gets a lot of stuff done. These agentic workflows that Claude Cowork has put out, seems like that's going to have a lot more momentum just in terms of brand perception and then eventually in use cases versus a Copilot. Now, Copilot has more distribution, but it really does look like Anthropic is winning this race. Can you show all these to Michael Burry? You know, he responded to me. I responded to him on X. He said, hey, we need to upgrade the energy grid. I said, wait a second. Why do we need to do that if AI demand is not real? And he was like, well, I'm just saying we need to upgrade it regardless of AI. And I was like, okay, I don't think that makes a lot of sense, but you do you. I don't know. I don't know what it takes to get to someone like a Burry or a real bear that's short this market to think that these use cases aren't real. Even if you think some of these companies are overvalued, you can't look at that Claude co-work example and imagine that it's not going to be permeating across society over the next 5 years in a variety of different dimensions, even if Anthropic's not the winner, right? But someone's going to be the winner there. And if there's multiple winners, there's just going to be way more demand than I think we can handle right now. And I think that's very important. China just came out. They said, we will offer Canada relief if Carney lowers EV tariffs. So China trying to negotiate with Canada to get them to lower some of their electric vehicle tariffs. And that's a statement that came out about 5 minutes ago. So it feels like AI is real, folks. Feels like AI is real. And it feels like it's not slowing down. What do you think about UiPath? So I have not done a lot of due diligence into UiPath, but I know it's robotic processing automation. When you see something from Claude Cowork like that, again, I wonder, is that a threat to UiPath? Is that something that's going to automate a lot of the tasks? Like, is that pretty much what UiPath does? I really have not looked into it deeply. I know the numbers are compelling. But is RPA something that can be threatened from something that Anthropic showed? Or is there so much demand for this type of agentic automation that Path is going to be a winner and it's only going to expand the industry? I think those are questions to ask, but in terms of Path, I haven't gone that deep into it. Is X down? Yes, X is down. I mean, my X, let me see. Let me load it on my phone. It is loading on my phone. No, it's not loading on my phone. Okay, yeah, it's definitely down. I can see a couple of things on my desktop, but yeah, it's down. Elon's got to pay the electricity bills. AMD was upgraded to overweight, $270. Speaking of Elon, we had some videos yesterday of him with Pete Hegseth. I believe this was at the SpaceX headquarters, if I'm not wrong. Also, real quick before I show that, speaking of AI companies, 11 Labs, I know a lot of you guys know that company. This was one of the first AI audio companies. They just crossed $330 million in ARR. The AI companies are growing the fastest we've ever seen. And once again, it probably means that this entire AI thesis is not fake.
We've seen such an incredible adoption across the enterprise segment where, as you've said, we've crossed 330 million at the end of 2025. And really what this shows is the trajectory across the company. Started the company in 2022. We launched the first product in 2023. It took us 20 months to get to the first 100 million in ARR. Then it took us 10 months to get to the 200 million in ARR and only 5 months to get to the current number. So hopefully that rate will continue. We are shipping the products that can provide the highest value to our customers across voice agents, across conversational agents. And that's where our focus lies as we think about this year. So we've seen,
I mean, dude, 3 years to get to 300 million in ARR, which is actually kind of slow compared to some of these other companies that have got into 100 million ARR in 18 months. It is quite incredible to see the level of growth that these companies are putting up. And all of this comes back to the AI trade where they need more data centers and they need more GPUs to be able to even have a chance to grow at those levels. But they also need use cases to prove why we're building these AI factories in the first place. And companies like 11 Labs winning, Anthropic winning, that goes to show why that's the case. Here's Pete Hegseth yesterday at the Starbase in Texas, speaking about Elon and SpaceX.
Here at Starbase, Texas, with Elon and the SpaceX team. There's nothing like this in America. There's nothing like this in the world. And what you have built and what you will build here is a testament to the strength of American ingenuity and American invention. So I want to thank all of you, all the folks out here for having us today. Elon, thank you so much for hosting us, for what you built.
So pretty bullish for SpaceX, pretty bullish for Elon Musk, and overall likely bullish for continued American innovation. Here we go, folks. Tuesday, January 13th, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right. right, wake your ass up. S&P 500, 695.55. That's up 0.05%. We got CPI that was better than expected at core 2.6 versus 2.7. So let's see if the street likes it or not. Red Cat, that's up 9%. Ondas, that's up 3.4%. The drone stock's catching a bid. Google, all-time highs, 335.40, up 1% on the day, $4.05 trillion in market cap. OSS, that's up 15%, crossing $12. VG, 760, that's up 3%. Big Bear AI, that's up 1.8%. Zeta, flat on the day. It's been flat for the past couple of days at 24, which I think is reasonable given it's up 20% year to date. But this one not moving too much, but it is holding that 20% move, which I think is good for consolidation. Oracle, another green day in a row. I know it's early, but it got up 3% yesterday. Let's see if it can hold above $200. Micron, that's up 1%. SoFi, that's up 0.5%. Palantir goes red. Palantir goes red at 177. AMD, wow, 219. 207 to 219. They got an upgrade to 270. My goodness, that's a hell of a move. The stock was at 201 yesterday. It was almost below $200. There you go. Delta's down 2%. They had a good earnings. JP Morgan had a good earnings. They're down 0.2%. Rocket Lab, it looks like she wants 90, has not gotten it yet, got to 89.40. But AMD, what an incredible move on Mr. AMD. 638 on the Googs, that's down 0.5%, on Meta, that's down 0.5%. MicroStrategy right there, that's up 3%. Duolingo, their CFO left yesterday. That stock got hit. Tesla at 449. Duolingo continues to go down. 160-150 does not look like there is a floor for this stock yet. Robinhood also goes red. Again, we've had a high beta rally. Robinhood has not participated in that rally at all. The opposite of what happened last year. I'm not sure what the street's waiting for, but my intuition tells me that the crypto revenue is going down because crypto has not been as volatile. Might be the reason why the street is pausing a little bit. Also, Robinhood was up a lot last year, and maybe the street wants to consolidate at these levels. Google right here, 337. Are we going for 340? Are we actually going for 340? Yes, we will have Technical Tuesday today. We will have Technical Tuesday for the market close. Intel got upgraded to 60 at Bernstein. The headline of the note from Stacy, the analyst at Bernstein, was Trump won't let Intel lose, which is also my thesis, but I haven't bought Intel yet. Intel right there, that's up 4%. That's green. S&P 500 is green. Robinhood is down. JP Morgan, that's down. Microsoft is flat. Redwire down 0.5%. Transmedics, they had a really bullish conference yesterday. I've been waiting to buy this freaking stock, and I've just not bought it yet. 141. CEO said some really good stuff yesterday. I think I'm going to be doing a deep dive on this name. I think even after the 10% move this year, it's still relatively cheap, but that one's up 4%. And having some momentum. Ethereum 3150, Opendoor, that's down 0.5%. SMCI down 2%. They got a sell rating today. ASML, that's also down 1%. Where is Nvidia? Nvidia, wow. Nvidia red, AMD green by 5%. You don't see that often. You don't see that often. But that is what we got. The Googs right here, 336, lost 338. But it's at 336. Oracle again at 207. That's up 1.2%. Zeta, are we moving higher? We were at 2430. We are at 2419. So that one still goes down. Intel up 3.4. Red Cat up 6.2. S&P 500 at 695. Yeah, I mean, AMD, I guess the upgrade was enough to get this moving. The upgrade was pretty basic too. They just said, hey, we think they're going to make a lot of money off their MI450s. But I guess sometimes the street needs to hear it from a reputable firm to be excited about it. Rocket Lab still holding 88. This one has not been slowing down. Meta, even with the compute announcement yesterday, and Meta with the Reality Labs layoffs, not enough for the street to be excited about it. Nike 66. Nike, I think, potentially catching a bid going into tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to see the Supreme Court ruling on tariffs. And if they rule that the tariffs are legal, maybe Nike goes down. If not, then maybe Nike gaps up to 70. Silver's at $88. My goodness, 88.08. That's up 3.5%. Gold's at 46.13. Basically at an all-time high. Nike right there, 66.57, up from 57. Those insider buys at this point seemed relatively bullish. VG, are we getting a breakout? VG 773. If this thing can get above $8, that would be very exciting. It's been stuck below 8 for the past 4 months now. So it'd be very nice to see if that's the case. OSS, that's up 10%, peaked at what, 1250, 1274. Now back down to 1163. Again, this is a small cap, so it will be volatile. SPY 695, Robinhood 117, JP Morgan, that's flat, Meta, that's flat, Rock Lab 88, that's flat. Boeing, we are getting some love. That's up 2%. I think there was a headline on Boeing this morning. I'm forgetting exactly what it was, but it was someone that agreed to buy 70 new jets from them. Delta, of course, it was Delta. Delta will be buying an additional 30 with options for another 30, so about 60 jets in the next 7 years. Boeing deliveries now, I'm looking at another headline, are the highest in 7 years in terms of deliveries. UBS is bullish on them as well. Boeing right there, that's up 2.4%. Amcor, what do we got on Amcor? That's flat, 51.39, nothing too crazy. Netflix is up a little bit, 90.50. Not seeing too much volatility in Netflix, up or down. Coinbase goes green, and then Bitcoin, we're above 92.5, which is not too bad. Nebius, yeah, let's look at the data center plays. Nebius, we are red, basically flat. I ran these all had great days yesterday. I ran up about 2%, and then CoreWeave. I don't know why CoreWeave broke out yesterday, but it did. 89.10, that one's down on the day, 1%. But still a massive day. Can you give us your thoughts on Spotify? I do not think the multiple here is that attractive. The business model is cool. It's not phenomenal. Margins are getting better in terms of free cash flow, but I don't like that Daniel Ek left. I don't like that the CEO stepped down and became the chairman. Like, you got a founder-led company that's now being run by two suits, which, it's probably not the biggest bear case, but I don't know. I'd rather buy Netflix. If I had to pick between the two, I'd rather buy Netflix. I also don't see what's the big upside catalyst for Spotify. Like, are they going to actually sign their own record label with artists? Because they've tried to do that. The record labels like Sony and Universal shut them down every time. Like, they're still at the whim of the record labels, even though their margins are expanding. I'd rather buy Netflix. If they get Warner Brothers, that's a lot of content, which would not be the worst thing in the world. MP67, the rare earth trade continues to be on. AMD up 6%. Starbucks also getting some love today. Starbucks, $90.22. I've actually started to drink a little bit more coffee. I like the coffee that is in my apartment. Like, today, my breakfast was coffee and a banana. It's actually a really good breakfast. I've never tried coffee and a banana. It was actually a great breakfast. Like, I felt really full after that. So I think coffee and bananas are my new thing. Oklo right there, 103.78. That's up 1.3. SoFi is up 0.5%. Wayfair partnered with Google yesterday. Google had multiple partnerships yesterday. They are now doing agentic commerce with Wayfair, also with Shopify. 337 on the Googs. That's up 1.8% as well. Okay, for those talking shit about my breakfast, I don't even eat breakfast, okay? This is the first time in like months that I've actually ate something in the morning. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to try eating a banana with this coffee. And actually, it was good. It was not too bad. What kind of coffee? It's just regular coffee. I put one sugar, put some cream in it, and that's it. And that's my coffee. On semiconductor, that's up 0.6. Marvell, 0.69. SoFi, 0.58. Lemonade, this one had a good day yesterday, 1.2%. Where's Hims? Hims got crushed yesterday, but then made a rebound, 32.94. That's up 1.7%. Not too bad on this one. Uber, what do you think about this? I think Uber is cheap. I don't know why it's getting as disrespected. Obviously, the Tesla narrative and the Waymo narrative continue to be a headwind for Uber, although it is not stopping their cash flows. Uber CEO Dara did an interview, which I'll show in a little bit, with the Wall Street Journal, and he was basically like, we're going to be fine. He's like, I don't know why people are thinking that robotaxis are going to kill us. Now, that's what he's supposed to say, and the street doesn't believe him, but he thinks we are going to be okay. Adobe, what do we have with the... Wow, Adobe, 321. My goodness. This stock, 8% down year to date after being down 30% last year. That is just incredible that Adobe's not catching a bid. CRM, how about that one? Salesforce is down 2% this year. Salesforce also was down about 25% last year. None of the software names catching a bid. How about PayPal? Wow. Below 57 again. PayPal, Adobe, Salesforce. Just not been in the right thematic for the market. Visa is down 3%. That's weird. I thought the brunt of their pain was going to happen yesterday. MasterCard also down 3%. Google continues to go higher, 338. Google now 4.08 trillion. So Visa and MasterCard, the credit card stuff, I guess, continue to affect them. as you're seeing more pain. Trump just tweeted great inflation numbers for the USA. That means that Jerome too late Powell should cut interest rates meaningfully. If he doesn't, he will just continue to be too late. Also great growth numbers. Thank you, Mr. Tariff. I don't know who he's calling Mr. Tariff, but he says, thank you, Mr. Tariff. That's Trump's tweet. Google looks like she wants 340. Let me check resistance. Google looks like she freaking wants 340. My goodness, this is a move by Google. Now, year to date, the Googs is up 6%, which is a big move for a company that's $4 trillion. 340 resistance on Google, 17,000 shares. 17,000 shares. AMD, 220. It's kind of crazy the street's not giving Meta any love. I mean, my average is 630. If we see below 630, I'm probably going to nibble. Probably should be nibbling here, but I don't know, dude. 2 headlines in a row that I thought would be pretty damn bullish for Meta. Not good enough to get this thing to even get a little bit of juice. 638.52 on Meta. Hims right there is up 1%. Google, very close to 340. Look at that, 50 cents away. Looks like that could happen. Looks like that one can happen. 339.70, very close to it. 339.80. Whereas Grabby Grab, that one continues to go down. Again, I will say this every single day. If you hate Grab, you got to get out of it. At this point, complaining about it doesn't make sense. I still believe there's a thesis. I believe there's a fundamental thesis. You're not bag holding a stock that's not profitable, not making money, not growing. If you're bag holding Grab, you're bag holding a company that, yes, is not moving as much as the rest of the market, but there is a fundamental thesis there. So for me, I'm holding. I don't look at it anymore. I hold it, and that's pretty much it. And if I sell, I'll let people know if my thesis changes, but there's nothing that has forced my thesis to change other than the price going down, which is just not enough to get my thesis to change. That one down 0.5%. AMD 221, that breaks 220 resistance. Google, did we touch 340? Up, we touched it. 340.13 on the Googs. 340.13 on the Googs. There it is, 340.40. $340 US for one share of Google. For one share of Google. There it is, folks. Had very little resistance at 17,000 shares, busted through that. 4.1 trillion. That means it added 100 billion of market cap in the past 24 hours. Partnerships with Shopify, partnerships with Wayfair. Obviously, the biggest partnership with Apple. Where is Apple? Is Apple getting any love? Apple 260, that's up a little bit. Google's really getting the main benefit from that. I mean, quite frankly, the street's almost pricing it in as if OpenAI and all the growth and excitement from OpenAI should be factored into Google stock, given Google is doing a lot of things that OpenAI should be doing. And what, OpenAI is worth 830 billion? I mean, I don't know. Is that, you take half of that, put it into Google stock, you get close to 4.6 trillion. There you go. You're the world's largest company at that point. 4.1 now for Google at 4.09 trillion at 340. EOSC, that's up another 5%. That's getting some love. OSS, that's up 12%. SNDK, your SanDisks of the world are down 2%. Micron, is that one down as well? Micron, yeah, that's down. All right, so the memory names are losing some of their momentum, which is okay because they were up like 40% year to date. So chasing them here, again, they could reverse, but probably got a lot of sellers that are also taking some profits. Meta right there, 636. Meta continues to get hurt. S&P, did we go red? We went red on the S&P. And we're seeing red on a lot of other places. Salesforce, Adobe, PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, Meta, Grab, Apple, SanDisk, Micron, the S&P, Palantir, Robinhood, Trade Desk, Tesla. All of these just went red. Shopify is actually getting close to new all-time highs, 169.45. Novo's up, back above 60. Silver's at 88. Baidu taking a breather. A lot of the Chinese names. Redwire, that's up 1.2. ASTS, how about that one? That one's also red by 2.4%. I mean, Bitcoin's up, at least. Bitcoin right there, 92.6. T1 Energy, this one's getting a pump. This one's only up 7% year to date. I thought it was up more. Now it's up 18% because it's up 11%. But when I looked at it in the morning, I thought it was actually up a lot more than what it was. Last year, it had a massive year, 200%. This year, it's now up around 15%. But this one's getting a lot, along with a lot of the energy names. Do we have any Iran headlines? I mean, last night we talked about it in the market close, but the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Trump is seriously thinking of striking Iran. And J.D. Vance apparently is the one, as per the Wall Street Journal, that is saying we should engage with them diplomatically and not engage in military actions. Trump has all but said that he is very serious about striking if Iran continues to kill people. There have been some very gruesome videos that have come out around what the regime is doing. And it's really bad. Like, it just looks really, really bad. So, I mean, is there a world where Trump, strikes, given what he did in Venezuela? Yeah, I think there is. The question is going to be if that ends up playing out. 92,600 right there on Bitcoin. Doug says, I'm about to FOMO into Intel, AMD, Micron, and Nebius. You all have been warned. Even if you FOMO into it in January, I think in December, even if these are not the best buys, those names will be all right. 92,680 on Bitcoin. Trump just tweeted again. Here you go. Iranian patriots keep protesting. Take over your institutions. Save the names of the killers and the abusers. They will pay a big price. I have canceled all meetings. Wow. With Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stops. Help is on its way. Make Iran great again. Oh, he's definitely striking. He's definitely striking. I mean, he is definitely. That tweet came out 3 minutes ago, ironically, as I was talking about him potentially striking. He is definitely going for it. I have canceled all meetings with Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stops. Help is on its way. Make Iran great again. All right. I guess we're going to have to see. Now, again, the market tends to fade the geopolitical headlines. It affects it for like 5 minutes and then we move on. But I guess this might be the first time in a long time where you have the United States really trying to make a go for Iran in a more meaningful way. Obviously, the one thing that we can't deny is Iran has a lot of oil, just like Venezuela. China is one of their largest exports or importers of oil from Iran. So that's probably another thing that Trump is interested in. Corey right there back at 90. Nebius goes flat on the day. Netflix is up 1%. Boeing still up 2%. Zeta potentially losing 24 right here. Volume starting to die out on Zeta. Had really good volume last week. It's normal after a 20% move. People take some profits, but maybe we get that 22 dip for a lot of people that have been waiting for an entry. Duolingo gets green, and then NVIDIA once again is down. Oh, wow. Bill and Hillary Clinton are scheduled to testify Tuesday in Congress's investigation of Jeffrey Epstein, with Republicans warning they could face contempt charges if they do not appear. Are we going to get to see that? Reddit is up 4%. JP Morgan super bullish on Reddit. They have a 320 price target. I think Reddit's a good long. I don't love the valuation here. So I think there's more risk than reward, but obviously, if Reddit keeps up the growth, then the stock definitely can go higher. Dude, if we get to see Bill Clinton get testified about these pictures, but are they actually going to show up? There's no way they're going to show up. I mean, he hasn't answered questions about this stuff ever. So it would be quite incredible if we see that happen. Bitcoin at 92.5. VG, she touched 8. There you go. Do we have a Meta headline? Meta seeks to double AI Ray-Ban capacity to 20 million units in 2026, as per Bloomberg. Okay, so we have another bullish Meta headline. The stock goes down. These are 3 headlines back to back to back over the past 24 hours on Meta. Not helping. Now, look, 20 million units is good, but people are talking about the glasses overtaking the iPhone. I mean, come on now. 20 million units is not even a drop in the bucket when it comes to the iPhone. So I don't really think that's the most exciting part of their business. Adobe continues to get hit. That's down 2%. MP Materials is up 2%. Spotify is up 0.5%. Nebius again down 0.5%. And Ren, that's up 2%. TMDX again, congrats to those that are in it. I should have pulled the trigger at 122, dude. I should have pulled the freaking trigger. I had one of those gut feelings when I looked at the valuation at 120. Just like I had a gut feeling with Zeta and I bought heavy. Should have just done the same thing with TMDX. I missed it. But I still think it's relatively cheap. So I'll be doing my research on it. If there's an the good thing, this is the good thing about selling puts. Like if you really do think there's an attractive valuation for a company, you can yield some of the premium on it. If you get assigned, then you're happy to get some of the shares. So maybe we sell some puts on TMDX. It also fits the small cap narrative going into the beginning of the year. That's up 8% on the day, increased projections for transplants that they have going into 2030. And that's why that's getting some love. Google right there, 340, still holding on to 340. Salesforce at 257. Netflix at 90. BM&R, nothing too crazy, 3140. Relatively flat. I mean, again, they're having their shareholder meeting this week, I think. We'll see what Tom Lee says there, but a lot of this is contingent on Ethereum. Kraken is up 42% in a month. Yeah, Kraken is one of those defense robotics plays. Again, defense, energy, nuclear, space, and aerospace. Those have been 5 massive, and semiconductors. Those have been the big themes this year that if you own certain names in those themes, you've done very well. Look at SMH, up another 0.5% today. So it doesn't look like that's necessarily slowing down. My average on Zeta is 2050. Are you still in BM&R? Yes, I'm still in BM&R. I have not sold calls on it yet. Again, one of my strategies is sell those deep in the money calls for 1 year out. I want this thing to get to like 35 before I do that. And that means ETH needs to get up a little higher. So maybe we do it earlier than that, but as of now, it's just been flat. And we're not really touching it. Uber right there, 84.60. That's flat as well. And then Meta, wow. Are we buying Meta, dude? Are we taking a stab at it? 635, 634.80? Goodness. Peter says I'm still in Intel under 20. You know, there was a guy who, wow, Intel 46.34. See, Intel, I had a gut feeling about that at 37. I need to trust my gut, dude. I need to get better at probiotics and trust my freaking gut. There was a guy who YOLO'd Intel. He YOLO'd his grandmother's inheritance into Intel at $30 on Reddit. And he was bag holding for a long time. I mean, I wonder if he freaking held on to it. This is the picture. He bought 22,000 shares at $30.45. This was about early 2024. I really wish he would post an update on Reddit and we would get to see if he held on to it. Because if he held on, I mean, that grandma inheritance money ended up working out. Remember, Intel fell to 18 after he did this. So kind of degenerate to put, first of all, getting 800,000 from your grandmother. It's not, most people get that in life. Second of all, dumping it into one stock. I mean, it's not the worst strategy, but you know, you would think like, hey, I just diversify this, 800 grand, I can live off a little bit of the yield. Nope, he was going for it. If you held on, Trump and Nvidia pumped it up, and now he's up $16 a share on 22,000 shares, which is not too bad. VG up 6%, 783. TMDX looking for a 10% day. That's getting some love. And then the Googs right there at 338. Dude, imagine you put it into Robinhood at the same time. It was like $20. That would have been a fun use of that inheritance. Hims right there at 32.50. Starbucks. Okay, so pretty much we're seeing a ton of green, but it's like 0.5%, 2%. Some of these names are getting a massive move like an AMD or TMDX. But we're also seeing a decent chunk of red. It's just not super, super ugly red. This is the heat map for the day. Tech is actually leading the way. Financials and healthcare are down. Goog's leading tech. Broadcom, Netflix, Apple are up as well. Oracle. And then energy is a little green. Aerospace and defense is up a little bit. Everything else is red. Bloom Energy, I'm still doing some DD on this one, but I am liking what I'm seeing. The thing is, the stock is up freaking 45% this year. And I just feel like I should wait for a better entry. And I wonder if that's going to be the story of this year. People waiting for a better entry and never getting that entry. And it just becomes a super bull year. Or is that the responsible thing to do, given we've had a pretty strong rally to start off the year, and some of these names are great companies, but they need a breather. I like Bloom though. From the small level of due diligence I've started to do, I think this one is a hell of a multiple that is on the stock, but there's a real growth story there. And it's more of a growth story than a lot of the other energy names that are kind of promising growth. Bloom is actually showing it. I ran right there. That's up 2%. Nebius, flat. Coinbase, up 1.2. Did you look into Datadog yet? No, I've not looked into Datadog. I don't really have any motivation to look into Datadog. Dude, if I'm buying a SaaS company, I'm buying Zeta. Like, I don't know if Datadog is your outperformer in SaaS. There's got to be a compelling thesis here, man. I mean, what did it do last year? It was down 7%. You know, people are going to say I'm crazy, but I also like Palantir here over a lot of the other SaaS names. I know Palantir has a crazy multiple, but like Palantir is going to grow top and bottom line. And like at the end of the day, the market's rewarding growth. The market's not rewarding this like shitty guidance, like, oh, 18% year over year. It's like, no, the market wants real growth in the age of AI. And Palantir is the only software company showing that. Even ServiceNow, I mean, 19% growth is cool, but it's not that sort of AI thematic in the SaaS space that the market loves. VG trying to get back up to $8, $7.91. S&P goes red. Meta, are we going below 630? Folks, it looks like we're going below 630. 630.7. Just email me if you have some DD. Email amit@akcomms, comms with 2 M's, because that would make my life easier if you have like a little write-up or something that I can read. And then I can do a little bit more work on Datadog. I'll also ask Steve about it. Maybe he has some thoughts on it. 630.40 on Meta. Are we going below? Why are they selling it off today? That's the better question. Like, why? Past 3 days or past 24 hours, we got 3 good announcements. Meta Compute, Meta firing some of the Reality Labs employees that's not making money, and then Meta Glasses. Not enough. Not enough. Uber just went green. HIM's at 32.50. Little rug pull after FCPI. Yeah, but Meta's the only one getting rug pulled, at least in the tech sector. Wow, there you go, below 630. Google's just like thriving today. Are people selling Meta to buy more Google here? I just became a Meta community member. Oh my gosh, is NVIDIA's also selling off? Meta. Are we doing it, guys? Are we buying it? Are we taking a little stab at 630? 630 Dolores. Well, hold on. Everything just flipped red. It's not just Meta. Hold on. Everything just flipped red. We got a lot. Look at this. SanDisk, Micron, S&P, ASTS. AMD is losing a little bit of steam, still holding on to a decent chunk. Adobe's down. Uber flipped green. Where's Tesla? Tesla 448. Gold is green. Gold is indeed green. Wait for 580. Do we really think we're seeing 580 on Meta? I mean, 580 on Meta would be a little aggressive. That was the November lows. AppLovin, that's also down 657. I don't know. I think that would be enough. We do have Supreme Court news tomorrow. That's also true. I mean, maybe we should be a little bit patient as well. Supreme Court's going to be an important update. And I'm not fully sure if that's just going to pump everything or dump everything at the same time. Visa and MasterCard, I'm actually kind of interested in those. If this credit card thing is not a big deal, those are phenomenal businesses. PayPal below 57, Salesforce 255, then Starbucks at 90.26. Is silver above 89? Wow, silver 89, folks. 4.8% up on the day for silver. It looks like 90's on the way. Rocket Lab also very close to 90, not there yet. Got to 89.73. But it's trying to get there. Large NVIDIA and Meta put buyers of 10 million bucks. What are the strikes on those, Cactus? If you can find the strikes for those. Oh, I see it right here. Strikes. So we've got some. Wow. 575 puts on Meta January 30th. Obviously, someone could be hedging here. Decent amount of option flow coming into that. NVIDIA, you have some more puts coming in as well. But Meta is the bigger one that we're seeing right here. Rocket Lab just got hit 88.20 up. New home sales. We're getting that data right now. Let me pull that up. New home sales. We had CPI this morning. That was bullish. Let's see what we have on new home sales. We are in fell 0.1% month over month versus expectations that are relatively. That's not too bad. Forecast was negative 10.6%. Let me pull this up. And let's take a look at these new home sales. We'll see how it affects the housing stocks as well.
Because of the government shutdown. So I'm going to go with October right now. We got 737,000 versus expectations of 718,000. This is 0.1% below September 2025 of 738. So that tells us that 738 in September was actually above expectations of 710. And it is 18.7% above October 2024. So we're seeing a nice gain year over year. And I guess, well above expectations on that. For sale inventory is also moving higher. It's unchanged from September, but is 1.7% above October of 2024. And it is a 7.9 month supply. So that's still, well above that median between you want 6 months is a balanced market between buyer and seller. The median price of a home sold in October was $392,000. This is 3.3% below the September price of $405,000 and is below it is 8% below October 2024. Now we do like to use those year over year numbers for prices. So it does show that the builders are lowering prices. What we do know in September, October is that mortgage rates basically didn't move. They were between 6.2 and 6.4%. These numbers are based on people out signing contracts, so not closing. It's people making their decisions in October when those rates weren't really moving and when the builders did note that there was a lot of concern about the economy. So we did get a beat on that, and that's good for the builders. I would also note that we finally got housing starts numbers last week. Housing starts, however, were 4.6% below the October starts from the year before. So we're seeing a weakening in housing starts. We saw a weakening in building permits, which are a future indicator of housing starts, but a nice beat on new home sales for October, at least. Hopefully this data will start to get more timely as we move forward. Back to you guys.
Yeah.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad. Obviously, there's bigger things to consider in regards to the shutdown. These were the October numbers. Rocket Lab just went red. Everything's going red now, folks. Everything's going red. Google's holding on by a thread. But those home sales are still better than expected. It's just skewed because of the shutdown on the October data. Where's Lennar? Lennar is at 120. That one goes slightly red on the day. Is this a bear trap? Maybe. What did we vote on the red or green poll? Let's see right here. 78% of people said green. All right, so most people are bullish today. NVIDIA red, Tesla red, AppLovin red, Meta. This one looks like a little bit of a falling knife. We need a reversal here. 628, that's down 2%. ServiceNow is down 0.5%. Intel's holding on to freaking 5%. Goodness gracious, Intel. Bloom's holding on to 2%. Transmedics up 9%. BM&R just went red. VGA, it's holding on to 4%. The energy names are not doing too bad. S&P is losing some steam right now, along with Micron and SanDisk, as that's down 0.22%. Interesting stuff. Again, the housing data is not necessarily that bearish, but CPI also is not that bearish. I mean, I feel like this is maybe a little bit of momentum swinging to the downside after a good couple weeks. We also have Supreme Court tomorrow, so that could be something that people are anticipating. AEHR Air Test Systems. I know Roy loves this one. Look at that, 7% move on this one. Shout out to Roy. He's been analyzing this one for about a year now. And he likes this, as that one is up 7%. Bsoft says it just became a Meta community member. Again, I'll say what I said yesterday. My fear is that Meta's going to have amazing numbers because it was a holiday season for advertising, but Zucks, once again, is not really going to explain what they're doing with CapEx. And the street's going to be like, we could just buy Google instead. I think that's the scarier part of owning Meta right here. But regardless, I mean, you got to look, if you believe in the multiple here, you got to believe it's going to get re-rated and look past the noise, even if it takes a couple quarters to get there. Dude, Intel is making me want to FOMO so bad. I'm so annoyed at this stock. Like, we all have that stock that, like, you knew even after a run up, it should still be bought because it's probably going to keep running. And this stupid thing keeps running. I can't buy it here now at 47. I cannot do it. Not when it was 37 last week, dude. I can't freaking do it. I just can't do it. Obviously, for those that bought it at 18.20, congrats. But even at 37, I was like, no. I don't know what interview I saw. I saw something. And that just triggered me to be like, Trump and Jensen are in. And of course, there you go. Up a nice 20% since then. Sell puts on it. Yeah, that might have to be the play. Same thing for me for Zeta. So, like, again, so the question now is, when do we get opportunities? And Zeta, I mean, look at that, below 24. I think 22.50 is the opportunity. Obviously, if you really want it, then, you know, you're getting below 24 right here. But, like, do I really want Intel at 43? No. I want it at 37. Well, that's a pretty big move down. I got to wait for at this point, which is also the annoying part. Because it's not like Intel's valuation is that attractive. This is a pure, like, hey, it's a narrative here. So it's not like I'm waiting for 43 because of the valuation. I just don't want to FOMO into this. Meta, are we still dropping? 629, still below 630. Sell a 37 cash grid put. I don't even know if there's any good premiums at 37. Even though Intel's a very liquid stock, 4 million shares already been traded. If I sold a 1 month put at 37, yeah, dude, we're getting 23 cents. That's not worth tying up 3,700 in capital. We need a little bit of correction in the markets. We get a little bit of correction. We'll get to scoop up these names, but right now that's not happening. Rock Lab 88. TE is up 15%. Garrett says, I took your advice and bought Intel at 38. Garrett, next time you do it, email me. Be like, hey, Amit, I'm doing what you said, even though you're not doing what you said. So if it goes up, just know I'm going to be bragging about it. SMH up 0.4, VG up 4. Did you hear Chamath mention Elon reversing SpaceX into Tesla? I don't think it's going to happen, but it would send Tesla to $1,000 immediately. We talked about it yesterday. I am wondering why Chamath predicted that, though. Like, he's been in SpaceX for like 10 years as a private investor. So what does he know that we don't for him to make that prediction? But I don't think it's going to happen. Although it would be really good for Tesla. Cypher right there, that's up 7%. Again, JP Morgan had a great earnings today. That stock's down 2.7%, probably because it was up 40% last year, but did not have a bad earnings. Delta also did not have a bad earnings. That one's down 2%. And then Bank of New York Mellon also had a great earnings today, as that stock continues to show more momentum. I want to pull up JP Morgan's credit provision losses as well. Last quarter, they had 400 million extra, which was really good. BK right there, that's up 0.17%. Let's see, JP Morgan credit loss provisions. Last time they guided for 3.4 billion, they came in at 3 billion, which means they had 400 million extra. Provision was 405 million. Better than expected. Is that the case? That's 2 quarters in a row of yeah, they saved about 400 million. Not bad, once again. So they expected 400 million more loans to go bad, which didn't happen. That's actually real. That's a healthy consumer, or at least a relatively decent lending environment for that consumer. AMD right there, 219. So again, JP Morgan being red on this, I think, is more indicative of the fact that its stock has run up a lot. Jamie Dimon had some really good comments about the labor market. He actually seemed kind of bullish about the overall markets, which is not too bad. Julian Emmanuel from Evercore. Let's get his take on what's going on in the markets, and then we'll keep going from there. It was a black screen. Okay, let me know if this is a black screen, but this should be working.
Volatility is very low, and now we're already we're in the second week, and it's already felt like a year in terms of the news flow. But the fact is that the underlying trend of better earnings and stimulus, and yes, there will be more Fed rate cuts. We think there could be 3 versus the market's expectation of 2. All of that is going to support markets higher. This is one of the.
Why is there a black screen here? What the hell is going on? Let me try this again. This is definitely not an internet thing. This has got to be a StreamYard thing. Why the hell is it? Hold on. Let me try something different. Let's see if this fixes it.
These times that because of the news tape, the market should feel a little bit more uncertain. The biggest issue for us as we look at the year is a lack of fear if there's too much complacency. And we kind of like to see a little bit of uncertainty here. That's going to probably.
Is your bull case anywhere approaching 9 still?
We still think if you look at the backdrop, and this is another fascinating aspect about the end of the year, the uncertainty around technology and the AI trade specifically has intensified. People are cautious about it for all the things that we saw, concerns about CapEx, concerns about adoption. We actually think this is the year where corporate America has to prove to everyone that why and how they're driving revenue and cutting costs by using AI. Otherwise, they're going to be judged as being competitively disadvantaged. And that's the kind of environment where you could get a potential AI bubble to 9,000.
I'm all worked up about the Fed investigation, but normally I'd be talking about the CPI report, which I think was another surprisingly weak report, or good, weak in a good way, which is core CPI coming in on a monthly basis and yearly basis, less than expected. Usually the market would be celebrating that. It's not.
Well, and again, remember, we just made a new all-time high yesterday. It's been a very strong run.
Still, expectations were that this was going to be a hot print. Core CPI at 2.6%.
And I would say this is, as well, Sarah, there's still some residual questions around the information and the data itself. I think that's going to take another several months. But the underlying fact is that, again, when you think of the long term, inflation is moving the right way, and growth. I mean, the Atlanta Fed GDP is now is 5.1%. We probably don't want to be cutting rates just yet in that backdrop, and I think that's why the market doesn't think you're going to see one until June.
You do think 14% earnings growth might be a little aggressive?
We do. We definitely do, and I think part of what you're seeing this morning is a realization of that. And obviously the financials have been on an absolute tear for the last 6 months. And so that's a pause. But again, dropping back for us in an environment where you're going to get stimulus and an environment where rates are likely to fall, high single digits earnings growth, the path to get there is probably going to cause some volatility, but ultimately that's not going to be a headwind for stocks.
Okay, so I agree with most of what Julian is saying. Let me know if you guys can see Webull. I don't know why this thing is being weird today. I don't know why it's not sharing it the way it should be shared. But look, no, you guys can't see it. What the hell is going on, bro? Why is it doing that today? That's weird. I think that's a StreamYard thing today. That's not, I can see it on my side. Let's try it again. See if you guys see it. It's not a privacy mode. It's not the internet. It's not the internet at all. All sorts of apps are having problems. Yeah, is this an internet thing? Because X is still down. Is there, Chris, are you noticing other things that are having problems or something? Like, why is that so freaking weird? Is there a DDoS attack or something happening on a guy? X is still being stupid. It's still not loading for me. I don't know, guys. That's weird. That's very, very weird. Hood Legend is lagging. Check down detector. That's a good thing. Let me check down detector. X had a bunch of them. Cloudflare had a bunch of them. AWS had a bunch of them. Oh boy. Look at this. You're seeing I don't even know if I can share my screen. Let me know if you guys see this. You guys probably don't see this, but I'm seeing a bunch of websites. You see this? Let's see if it loads up. So, no, you guys can't even see it. Okay, so I'll just read it to you. AWS is down. AT&T, YouTube, Verizon, Spectrum, X, Reddit, Spotify. I don't know. I don't know. It might be region specific. Cloudflare is down, so experiences outages across major apps. Okay, that's weird. That's very weird. I mean, I did have to leave early today anyway, but I was going to leave at like 10:40. I don't even want to say why I'm going to leave early because everyone's going to make fun of me, but I did have to leave early today. But we started early, so that's okay. That's so weird. Why is this happening today? I'm in Portugal and X is not working. Yeah, it must be regional. I don't want to say it. You guys are going to get mad for why I'm leaving. I don't want to say it. But I might have to go see the dentist. Like, it is what it is, dude. I might have to go see the dentist. Meta right there, 627. That one's fine. But okay, in my defense, okay, I was supposed to go on Friday, but my crown, my temporary crown broke last night. So I called them up and I was like, I probably shouldn't wait 5 days to like get the actual crown in. So that's why I'm going today. That's why I'm going today. Thankfully, they have a spot at 11:30. I know it's sus. Every time I leave, I say I'm going to the dentist, but it just happens to be the dentist more often than not. Dude, why are we not working? This is so dumb. Let me see if other people on X are saying Cloudflare, if X even works. Microsoft 470, Meta getting hit. X is down in the UK. Yeah, no, it's a lot of, it's not just me. 22,900 reports of Cloudflare. Cloudflare just tweeted, Cloudflare rated data shows internet traffic slowing down. As of 9/19, 22,000 reports of outages. StreamYard runs on Cloudflare. So that is annoying. I'll try sharing it again. We'll see if you guys can see this. Siege, thank you for the $20 super chat. Again, you do not have to send it. Thank you for the super chat. This is weird. This is so freaking weird. VIX going higher. Intel still at 47. Okay, now you guys can see it because I clicked on Webull on my laptop, not on StreamYard. So if I go back to StreamYard, it's going to go black. We'll test it right now. If I go back to Google, okay, let me know if it goes black. Let's see. If it doesn't, then maybe we fixed it. Did we fix it? Oh, I think we fixed it. Did we fix it? Yes. Okay, cool. We fixed it. All right, cool. We fixed it. See? This is why I'm Indian. Got the IT in my soul, bro. Got the IT in my soul. Will fix any problem related to computers. I have to. Grab looks like it's going to go below 480. This one's getting kind of ridiculous. MasterCard down 5, Apple down 0.5%, Visa's down. Visa and MasterCard down 5% today, dude. 5 freaking percent. Adobe down 3, Uber down 0.5. Then JP Morgan down 3. Why are the financials? JP Morgan had a great earnings. I mean, I know the stock was up, but goodness, it's not just that. Zeta as well. There you go. Maybe that's, I think 22.50 is a better price, but 23.27, there's a bit of an opportunity there. And then Meta, 630 was not the buy. 625 is where we're at. It kind of looks like a falling knife with the market, but then again, maybe that's enough pain, 2.5%. 2.5% is enough. Mid, are you buying, grab, or giving up? Guys, I have too much of this stock. Like at this point, buying more would just become unreasonable. Like I have a lot of shares. At this point, it's a full position. It's sized up. I have options as well. I'm leaving it in a corner. Triple V is also in grab for those that are asking. He has like about 10 million shares. I think his average is like 520. And we were talking about it in Vegas. He was just like, oh, I'm just holding on. I mean, he thinks the thesis is very sound. It's just, there are years where the price does not reflect reality. I just don't think their earnings trajectory this year is going to lead to a continued depressed price. But again, if you don't want to stay with it, then you don't have to stay with it. Like it's not that complicated. At this point, I'm committed to it. So it's in the portfolio and it's held there. And I do think it's relatively de-risked compared to a lot of other names that have flew high. But that doesn't mean that, the names that are flying high won't fly higher. So it's just that simple. Went through this with Palantir for 2 years. Went through this with Hood for 2 years. For Grab, we're on the beginning of the second year. I'm going to give it at least another year. I mean, I don't think you quit a thesis after 1 year, especially if the fundamentals don't. Like, if someone can give me a fundamental reason that is like a thesis breaker, that's a different question. All I'm seeing is inflecting profitability on free cash flow, EBITDA, margins, etc. You can give me other reasons, but on a fundamental basis, I like it. So I'm holding it, but I'm also not like hyper analyzing it every day because it is what it is. Like at some point, you make a decision and you live with it. But that's also why, we're searching for other names as well. And I think there's plenty of other opportunities that are out there. And different forms of capital can be deployed towards that, like a Zeta, like a TMDX, which I haven't bought yet, but I do really like an Intel, which I should have bought. Even like a VG. How much is VG up year to date? I think VG is up like 10%. VG year to date, yeah, 14%. I mean, VG was stuck below 6 and 5 for almost 4 or 5 months after that lawsuit. And now it's starting to get a little bit more momentum. Yeah, this is the perfect question. If you're asking if someone's still in it, you got to sell. You got to just get the hell out. And that's okay. There's no hard feelings. Like I've been in and out of plenty of stocks that ended up going up or ended up going down. But you just can't complain about it. If it's like really annoying you every day, then you got to clear your own mental health as well. I mean, that's what I did with HIMS. Now, thankfully, I got out at like 58, 60 bucks on HIMS. But at some point, I was just like, dude, I don't think this thesis is that compelling anymore. Nike 6683, that's holding on. Duolingo 164. Oracle goes red. I will say the option flow on Grab is crazy. There are 300,000 contracts open for the $10 strike on January 2027. So there is a decent chunk of the market that's betting that this bad boy gets closer to 10 by next year. But time will tell. SoFi getting hit again, 26.33. And then Palantir 177. Does Grab give you Palantir vibes when it just wouldn't go up? Yes, but obviously it's not going to be a 17x like Palantir. I just don't think that's possible. But the vibes are that the stock is not doing anything, but the company is just consistently executing. And by the way, for everyone complaining about the insider selling of Grab, Carp was selling a lot of shares at $8, like a lot. And we had to deal with all that FUD on Palantir Weekly back in 2022. I mean, this guy would be selling like 100,000 shares every other week because the guy was at the company for 20 years. And so he wanted to get some liquidity. Same thing with Sham, same thing with all the C-suites. The insider selling is irrelevant. It doesn't it doesn't matter. The market has to have a fundamental narrative on the company. And if the company is growing, the insiders are going to sell regardless. So yeah, it gives me those types of vibes, and that it gives me the Hood vibes as well. The chart looks exactly like Hood's chart in 2022 going into 2024, which is just that it wouldn't move even though the company was progressing. But eventually something changes. And the question is, how patient are you to deal with that change? MasterCard still down. Greenland Prime Minister just put out a statement. He says, We reject being part of the United States in any way. We are now facing a geopolitical crisis and we have to choose between the United States and Denmark. Here and now we choose Denmark. Wow. I mean, there were some reports over the weekend that Greenland is privately talking with the United States because they're entertaining the offer. It looks like the prime minister just shut that down. Huh. Let me see if I can share this and if you guys can see it. But Greenland not on board with joining. I mean, again, there were a lot of reports saying that Greenland's having private conversations with the United States and entertain this. There's only 57,000 people in Greenland. I didn't know that. I found that out 2 days ago. I did not know that. We are now facing a geopolitical crisis, and if we have to choose between the United States and Denmark here and now, we choose Denmark. Okay, there you go. They do not want to join the United States. Zeta, are we below 22 or 23? Zeta, very close to below 23. Oh, did you guys, was that a black screen? Did you guys even see that tweet? I don't even think you guys saw that tweet. Okay, let's see if you guys see Weeble. Of course, it's not working again. Cloudflare's got to get their shit together, bro. Where's this stock? I feel like the stock should be so much more expensive given how valuable it is to the world. 186. Well, it does trade at 32 times sales. That is a, yeah, you guys can't see the screen anymore. Not Indian after all. Call Jess. Oh my gosh. Oppenheimer downgraded Adobe. That's why Adobe got hit today. Wow, that's another downgrade on Adobe. My goodness. It's a decent chunk of downgrades. Another statement by the Danish PM. One thing must be clear to everyone. Greenland does not want to be owned by the United States. Greenland does not want to be governed by the United States. Greenland does not want to be part of the United States. Okay, so I guess they don't like the United States. T1's up from Meta News. Yeah, Meta's been giving energy contracts to a lot of different companies, including Oklo, which got it last week. Zuckerberg announces Meta Compute. T1 Energy recently entered into a 3-year contract to supply Treaty Oak Clean Energy with 900 megawatts of solar modules. Meta and Google are Treaty Oak Clean's largest customers. Yeah, there's your link between Meta and T1, along with Google. That's why T1 is getting some love. All right, guys, I don't know. It's the internet today, not the Wi-Fi, but the internet infrastructure that's creating these issues to not share the screen. Let me try it again. See if maybe we can share it. I have to leave in 10 minutes anyway. We'll be back for the close. We'll have Technical Tuesday. I guess story of the day is flat to red. Couple of partnerships that are bullish, but overall, it's a relatively flat day. You're not seeing a ton of momentum. If anything, it's more red than flat given the stocks that are getting hit. S&P officially down 0.5% now on the day. Just bought 10,000 of PayPal calls. I mean, I feel like PayPal should be bottoming. I just don't know if you can time it with the calls. Will you do an OSS deep dive? You know, I'm getting really interested in them. So I think, yes, there is a world where we do a deep dive on them. But it's going to take me about a couple weeks to go deeper. Again, Stock Talk joined the channel last week on the Vegas market close. We talked about it for about 10 minutes. I linked a thread on my X yesterday. Thesis is very compelling. They get $1 billion contract, $200 million market cap. They're going to be a lot higher than they are today. And edge compute is a really, really important theme for 2026, especially in military deployment. There are some Palantir connections as well. Like, it's actually a really interesting name. But I think there's a lot of FOMO right now. And I think it could easily come back to $8, $9. That becomes better. When would you buy more Amcor? I mean, Amcor looks like it's officially been re-rated into the 50s. Now, obviously, could easily fall back to that 47 range. I think it even fell there last week for, honestly, like a couple minutes. It's not expensive here at 2 times sales. but they're going to have to put up an earnings to continue to show that the work they're doing at the Arizona fabs justify it being closer to a $67 stock. The thing is, it's up 25% year to date, right? So it's like, do I think it deserves that re-rating? Yes. Will it hold the 25% if the S&P drops a couple percentage points? And probably a lot of these stocks are not going to be holding that. Zeta below 23. All right, so you got some sellers coming into the name today, down 5.5%. S&P 692. Adobe continues to get hit as this one's down 315. Wow, if Adobe goes below 300, I mean, that would be very interesting. Air Test Systems loses its gains for the day. NVIDIA, 183. Google loses 340, back to 335. Applied Digital is down. ServiceNow is down. Datadog is down. BM&R is somehow up, along with VG. So those two are doing okay. T1 Energy is up 12%. And then the memory names are down. MasterCard and Visa continue to go down. Okay, I think that's it. I wish I could share the screen here, but the only thing people will be seeing is red. It's weird. We got a good CPI. I think it's a what, CPI rug pull is how we define today. Yeah, I guess it was a CPI rug pull. Now, we didn't have a massive pump on CPI. It was a little bit of a pump, nothing crazy, but it looks like it's kind of getting pulled from here. I wonder why the internet's down today. Like, what? You're still seeing a ton of AWS in particular at around 9:30 is when you started seeing more reports. It's 10:30. We're still seeing some of the impacts on that. The USA didn't pay their bills. It's because the US is going to attack Iran today. I don't know if that's the reason the internet's bad. There is no internet in Iran. I mean, like Starlink got shut off yesterday as well. The internet's getting hit pretty bad there. And again, Trump tweeted this morning that he will make Iran great again. So you could wonder there's an argument for why. Oh, wow. Look. So here's a picture of the Cloudflare outages. Yeah, this is a Northeast thing. For those on the West Coast, you're not feeling this. Yeah, look at this. This is all Northeast. Little bit of the South, Texas and Georgia, a little bit of the Midwest. This is more Northeast than not. All right, so hopefully it's fixed by the afternoon. We'll be back on the close. I'm going to go get a proper crown. And does not suck in the Northeast. New York City is beautiful. Okay, you have to live here to experience the magic of New York. I saw a rat running down the street the other day. I mean, that's beautiful, dude. It's New York. It's New freaking York. All right, that's it, guys. I'm sorry. The internet's being stupid. If anything, it's a red day, so we'll see if this changes up by the close. We will have Jason on, and we'll get his first technical look at the market for the new year. 627 on Meta. Zeta back above 23. S&P 500 down about 0.24%. Banks had good earnings. CPI was good. Market doesn't like it. Looks like they're concerned more about some geopolitical stuff, and by the end of the day, we'll see if that ends up continuing. Bitcoin getting a little bit of love. Nothing crazy. Bitcoin actually almost 93, 92.8, and then silver and gold once again continue to be amazing. Silver at 88 and gold at 4,600. All right. Yeah, and we have Supreme Court tomorrow. That's also going to be a really important thing. All right, I think that's it. Do we even do word of the day? Is it even worth it with the internet being down? All right, we'll do it, but we won't even get to like hear the pronunciation. Oh, this is a basic one. I think we've seen this before. Obviate. To remove or prevent the need for something to make something unnecessary. A strong plan and simple rules can obviate emotional decision-making when volatility hits. Okay. Basic word, obviate. But that is our word of the day. Oh, Senate Republican leader, a credit card rate cap could make many lose credit access. There you go. Senate Republican leader Thune comes out saying, I don't know if we want to get this cap. Yeah, there it is, the official quote. I am not advocating for a credit card. Dude, we know the Republicans. We know the Republicans are straight up capitalists. They are not going to be on the side of lower interest rates for credit cards. Well, we have 7 days. Trump said by January 20th. So now we're going to see if this one actually goes back and forth. It's really going to see the sonogram of a new baby. Yeah, what if I have a girlfriend who's pregnant and every time I say I'm going to the dentist, I'm just going to see the updates on the baby. Maybe that's what's happening in my life. Maybe that's actually what's going on, guys. Maybe I have a little Amit that's on the way. 8 months, you're going to hear a baby crying in the background during the market open. All right. I think that's it. I'm out. I'll be back on the close. And we have a Twitter Spaces at 12. I mean, I hope we still have, Twitter keeps working. We'll have a Twitter Spaces at 12:45 with Iliano and a Palantir executive, Greg Little, talk about defense stuff. And then we have another Twitter Spaces at night at 8 p.m. talking with Adam around Palantir and the role in Venezuela. Then we have the market close. So it's a busy day, got a lot of stuff. Hopefully the internet is back by then. And we should be good to go. Chris says, I didn't know men could have babies. Oh my gosh. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe your boy's going to a doctor for a different reason. No, really, it is the dentist. I was supposed to go on Friday, but the crown broke last night, and I was like, I can't have an exposed tooth for the next 5 days. So that's why I'm leaving. But now that the internet's not working, I guess it works out. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the market close, and we will have Technical Tuesday for the first one of 2026. Bye, everybody. See you guys in a bit.